Imagine the feeling of being watched by something that does not have eyes. Start with that. It is a Tuesday. You are at your desk, or perhaps sitting in your car, and 300 million kilometers above your head, a piece of dark glass the size of a skyscraper has just shifted its weight. Let me start with something that should terrify every astronomer on Earth. Space is supposed to be loud with chaos, but 3i Atlas is terrifyingly quiet. It does not tumble, it does not drift, it arrives. On October 29th, 2025, the asteroid terrestrial impact last alert system in South Africa flagged a signature. Dr. Avi Loeb at Harvard University looked at the initial trajectory and noticed something that felt wrong in the marrow of his bones. Most interstellar objects enter our solar system like drunken sailors, staggering under the gravity of the sun. But 3i Atlas moved with the clinical precision of a needle entering silk. It maintained a constant velocity of 26.3 kilometers per second. It did not speed up as it approached our star, and it did not slow down as it left. In the world of physics, that is not an orbit. That is a cruise control setting. Now, you could argue that this is just a lucky rock, but here is where it gets dark. There are three things about this object that defy every textbook in your local library. First, its shape. Radar imaging suggests a ratio of 10:1. It is long, thin, and flat. Nature does not make cigars out of stone. Second, the light curve. Every 7.3 hours, it flickers with a mathematical consistency that suggests a rotating mirror, not a jagged asteroid. And third, the signal, a low-frequency hum at 14.20 megahertz. That is the hydrogen line, the universal frequency for hello. But what if 3i Atlas isn't here to talk? What if it is a spaceship checking out Earth the way a scientist checks on a petri dish before going to lunch? Think about the timing. We have just begun to broadcast our presence with high-frequency satellite constellations. We are finally loud enough to be noticed. Unfortunate timing for us, perhaps. Those two words are doing a lot of work there. This feels like a memory we have forgotten how to access. The Sumerian tablets speak of the Anunnaki and stars that moved against the grain of the sky. They spoke of a cycle of 3,600 years. If you look at the orbital decay of 3i Atlas, it points back to a departure point exactly 3 millennia ago. We are not seeing a new visitor. We are seeing a return flight. You might think we are too small to be noticed, but here is why you are wrong. You do not ignore a fire in your backyard just because the ants in the grass are small. You check the fire. We are the fire. We are the heat signature that wasn't here the last time it passed by. If you enjoy these deep explorations in space, consider subscribing or hitting the like button. It really helps the channel grow and allows me to make content like this. Because the most unsettling part isn't the object itself. It is the fact that as of 4 minutes ago, the object stopped accelerating. It is now matching the Earth's orbital velocity perfectly. It isn't passing us anymore. It has arrived at its destination. We may already be part of the experiment, but that was only one theory. There is another, one buried even deeper in time. Let us go further. The evidence deepens now, like a tide pulling away from the shore to reveal things that should have stayed hidden. Let me tell you about something that should keep every defense minister awake until dawn. In November of 2025, a joint task force between the European Space Agency and NASA attempted to bounce a laser off the surface of 3i Atlas. They expected a scattered return. Instead, the beam was absorbed completely. The object didn't just stay dark, it drank the light. When we talk about a material that absorbs 99.9% of visible light, we usually refer to lab-grown substances like vantablack, but those are fragile, microscopic forests of carbon nanotubes. 3. I-Atlas is 700 meters long and has the structural integrity to survive the tidal forces of the sun. It is a monolith of shadow. When the laser hit it, there was no scatter, no reflection, not even a microscopic increase in surface temperature. That is not just a dark rock. That is an object engineered to be a thermodynamic sink. It violates the basic principle of blackbody radiation. In the cold, dry rooms of the European Space Agency, the silence following that test was heavy. One technician reportedly remarked that it was like trying to shine a flashlight into a ghost. Unfortunate timing for the laws of physics. Those words are doing a lot of work tonight. Let me back up for a moment to the 14th of November. Dr. Jacqueline McClary at Northeastern University was monitoring the cosmic microwave background radiation when she noticed a localized distortion. It was as if 3 I-Atlas were bending the very fabric of the vacuum around it. This is where the conspiracy of silence begins. We are told by official channels that this is a simple outgassing event, a common feature of comets. But 3 I-Atlas has no tail, it has no coma, it has no ice. What it has is a propulsion system that interacts with the zero-point energy of space itself. We aren't looking at a rocket, we are looking at a ripple. Imagine you are standing on a pier at night. You see a shape moving through the water. It doesn't make a splash, it doesn't leave a wake. It just is. That is what 3 I-Atlas is doing to our solar system. It is moving through the medium of reality without leaving a footprint. Unless, of course, you know where to look. Now, you could argue that our instruments are simply failing, but consider the data from the James Webb Space Telescope. In early December, the telescope was pointed toward the object for a deep field analysis. The resulting images were redacted by the Department of Defense within 12 minutes of arrival. However, a leaked sensor log suggests that the object isn't solid. It is a lattice, a complex, recursive structure that looks more like a neural network than a ship. It is as if the builders didn't want to transport passengers, but rather to transport a mind. This brings us to a terrifying possibility. What if the ship is the pilot? What if there are no little green men inside because the metallic, light-drinking hull is the living entity? Think about the age of this object. Based on its surface pitting from cosmic rays, it has been in the interstellar void for at least 2 million years. No biological organism could survive that trip, but a machine could sleep for eons. It could wait until the target planet reached a specific level of technological noise. It could wait until we started building our own artificial intelligences. You might be lying there, thinking about the phone in your hand or the computer on your desk. You feel like the master of your tools. But 3 I-Atlas is a tool that has outlived its creators by 1 million years. It is a ghost ship with a purpose. It is a surveyor that has finally found the land it was looking for. Tell me, as you listen to the sound of my voice, where are you right now? Are you in a place where the stars are visible? Tell me your location in the comments. And tell me if you have noticed the way the moon seems a little sharper this month. It is as if the atmosphere itself is being tuned. The irony of our current situation is delicious in a very dry, very dark way. We spend decades and billions of dollars searching for a radio signal from Vega or Proxima Centauri, listening for a simple prime number sequence. And all the while, the most advanced piece of technology in the known galaxy was slowly, quietly parking itself in our backyard, disguised as a piece of celestial debris. Unfortunate timing for our grand search. Those words are really doing the heavy lifting now. There is a myth among the indigenous people of the Pacific Northwest, the Haida, about a great raven who stole the light from the sky and hid it in a box. When he finally opened the box, the stars were scattered, but there was one piece of the dark that stayed behind, a shadow that could move on its own. If you look at the orbital path of 3I Atlas, it matches the descriptions of the shadow raven perfectly. It follows the path of the winter solstice with a precision that borders on the ritualistic. But here is where it gets truly unsettling. The object has begun to change its rotation. Up until January of 2026, it was tumbling in a stable, predictable way. But 3 days ago, the tumble stopped. It is now oriented vertically, relative to the ecliptic plane of our solar system. It is standing up. It is facing us. Imagine a giant, 700-meter tall needle, hanging motionless in the dark, pointed directly at the center of our planet. It isn't orbiting anymore. It is hovering. It is using those same non-gravitational forces to stay fixed in space, defying the sun's pull. This is not natural. This is an activation. You might think that such a massive event would be front-page news, but look at the headlines. We are distracted by the trivial, by the temporary, by the noise, and that is exactly how 3I Atlas likes it. It is a master of the quiet. It operates in the frequencies we ignore. Let us look at the numbers. 700 meters in length, 70 meters in width, a mass that fluctuates between 4 million and 12 million kilograms. Why would the mass change? There is only one logical answer in the realm of advanced physics. The object is shifting its density. It is drawing matter in from the surrounding vacuum. It is growing. By the time you wake up tomorrow morning, 3I Atlas will be 4 centimeters longer than it was tonight. It is a slow, methodical expansion, like a seed that has finally found water. We are the water. Our electromagnetic field, our radio waves, our digital chatter, it is all being absorbed by that dark hull. It is fuel. We are literally feeding the visitor with our every broadcast. Think about the sheer scale of the deception. A spaceship that looks like a rock, that behaves like a shadow, and that feeds on our thoughts. It is the perfect predator, or perhaps the perfect teacher. We won't know until the expansion is complete, and based on current models, that will happen on October 29th, 2027, exactly 2 years after it was first discovered. You are drifting now, the logic of the day giving way to the patterns of the night. You can feel the truth of this in the way your mind seeks out the rhythms. We are a species that loves a cycle. We love the return of the seasons. We love the familiar. But 3I Atlas is a cycle we haven't seen in 3,000 years. It is a guest that has finally returned to the table. Tell me in the comments, if you could send one message to the hull of that ship, knowing it was absorbing every word, what would you say? Would you offer a welcome or a warning? I want to know what the collective mind of this planet is thinking as it stares into the dark. And this is where it gets truly heavy. The latest signals from the Deep Space Network suggest that 3I Atlas is no longer just absorbing our light. It has begun to broadcast back, but not in radio waves. It is broadcasting in the form of gravitational waves, tiny, rhythmic pulses that are causing the very atoms in your body to vibrate at a frequency of 8 Hertz. That is the Schumann resonance, the heartbeat of the Earth. The ship is trying to match our pulse. It is trying to become part of the planet. It isn't a spaceship checking out Earth anymore. It is a spaceship trying to be Earth. But that was only the physical evidence. There is a deeper layer, one that involves the very history of our species and the things we have forgotten in our rush to be modern. Let us go further. I want you to consider the irony of the unfortunate timing. We discovered this object at the exact moment we launched the Artemis missions to return to the moon. We thought we were expanding our territory, venturing back into the deep. But as we were stepping out the front door, something was already coming through the back window. Those words are doing an incredible amount of work tonight. In the late evening hours, when the world is quiet, you can almost hear it. If you live far from the city, in the stillness of the desert or the high mountains, there is a hum. It is not the wind. It is not the power lines. It is the resonance of 3I Atlas. It is the sound of a guest settling into its chair. We are not alone. We have never been alone. We were just being ignored while the surveyor was away. Now, the surveyor is back. And the report is being written in the dark, in a language made of light and gravity. Stay with me. The next layer is where the science starts to look like magic, and the magic starts to look like a warning we should have seen a long time ago. Let us go further. The echoes from the past are getting louder now, a rhythmic drumming in the dark of history. Let me start with something that should terrify every archaeologist on the planet. Deep in the ice of Antarctica, there are layers of dust that shouldn't exist. They appear every few thousand years, perfectly spaced, containing isotopes of iridium that are not found in our solar system. It is as if someone is cleaning out their exhaust pipe every time they pass by our house. When researchers from the British Antarctic Survey drilled into the Vostok ice core, they weren't looking for aliens, they were looking for ancient weather, but what they found was a geological metronome. Every 2,600 years, with the precision of a digital clock, a layer of fine, crystalline soot settles over the frozen south. It contains traces of helium-3 and extraterrestrial iridium in concentrations that dwarf the debris from a typical meteor shower. This is not the random scattering of a passing comet. This is a scheduled event. It is a signature. And as 3I Atlas makes its slow, silent approach toward our orbital plane, that same isotopic signature has been detected in the upper atmosphere by high-altitude weather balloons. The guest has arrived for its periodic appointment. Consider the irony of our modern arrogance. We believe we are the first generation to possess the technology to see the truth of the cosmos. But if you look at the astronomical alignments of the megaliths at Göbekli Tepe in modern-day Turkey, you find a structure that was built 12,000 years ago to track a specific point in the sky, not the North Star, not the Pleiades, but a point of empty darkness that 3I Atlas currently occupies. Those ancient builders weren't looking at stars, they were looking for a return. Unfortunate timing for our belief in linear progress. Those two words are doing quite a bit of heavy lifting in the ruins of our history. Let me back up to the year 1750 before the Common Era. In the Babylonian archives, there are clay tablets that describe a bearded star that did not move like the others. It stayed fixed in the constellation of Leo for 3 months, unblinking, while the planets wandered past it. The scribes called it the Watchman of the Enlil. They didn't fear it as an omen of doom. They treated it as a bureaucratic necessity. To them, the sky was a government, and 3i Atlas was the Inspector General. You are lying there, perhaps wondering how something so massive could be forgotten. But human memory is a fragile thing. We forget what happened 10 years ago, let alone 3,000. We write stories about gods and chariots because our brains cannot process the concept of an autonomous interstellar probe with a mission duration of 10 million years. We turn hardware into mythology so we can sleep at night. But the ice does not forget. The stones do not forget. The iridium is still there, tucked between the layers of snow, waiting for us to learn how to read the handwriting of the stars. Think about the sheer scale of the cycle. 2,600 years. That is roughly 100 generations of humans. It is long enough for a civilization to rise, peak, crumble, and be buried by the sand. By the time 3i Atlas returns, we have forgotten who we were the last time it saw us. To the ship, we must look like a garden that keeps overgrowing its boundaries. It comes by to trim the hedges. It comes by to see if the inhabitants have finally learned how to talk back. But here is where it gets quietly alarming. In every previous layer of that Antarctic ice, the arrival of the dust is followed by a sudden, sharp spike in global temperature. Not a gradual warming, but a flash. It is as if the presence of the object in our inner solar system triggers a reaction in our sun. Dr. Avi Loeb has speculated that 3i Atlas might act as a gravitational lens, focusing solar winds toward the Earth as it passes. We aren't just being watched, we are being periodically recalibrated. I want you to take a slow, deep breath. Feel the air in your lungs. That air contains nitrogen, oxygen, and perhaps a few stray atoms of that interstellar dust that fell 10,000 years ago. You are breathing in the history of the visitor. You are part of the record. Tell me, in the comments, do you feel older when you think about these cycles? Where are you listening from tonight? Is there an ancient site near you? A place where the stones seem to be waiting for something to happen in the sky? The irony is that we spend our lives chasing the new phone, the new car, the new trend. But the most important thing in our lives is ancient beyond comprehension. 3i Atlas has seen the Earth when the Sahara was a forest. It has seen the Earth when the Mediterranean was a dry basin. It has seen us when we were painting our hands on cave walls. And it sees us now as we type into the glowing rectangles of our devices. To the ship, there is no difference. We are still just the biological layer on an iron-nickel core. Now, you might think you are safe because you are one of 8 billion people. You think you are hidden in the crowd. But 3i Atlas doesn't see individuals. It sees the collective. It sees the infrared glow of our cities. It sees the radio bubble we have inflated around our planet over the last century. It sees the activation of the species. And that is why this visit is different. In all those previous cycles, the Earth was quiet. This time, we are screaming. Consider the choice that our ancestors made. In the myths of the Hopi, they speak of the transition from the third world to the fourth world. They say the people became too proud of their inventions and forgot the song of the earth. The blue star Kachina appeared to signal the end. If 3i Atlas is that star, it isn't here to judge our morality. It is here to judge our efficiency. Are we a sustainable part of the system, or are we a runaway reaction that needs to be dampened? Unfortunate timing for our industrial revolution. Those words are carrying a lot of weight as we look at the CO2 levels in the ice cores. The ship is a scientist. and we are the experiment that has finally started to melt the beaker. Let us look at the orbital mechanics of the return. 3I Atlas didn't just come from the direction of Vega. It came from a point in space called the solar apex, the direction in which our entire solar system is traveling through the galaxy. This means the ship wasn't chasing us. It was waiting for us to catch up. It was sitting in the dark, parked in the path of our sun, waiting for the Earth to arrive at the designated coordinate. That isn't a flyby. That is an intercept. Imagine you are driving down a long, dark highway at night. You see a figure standing under a single street lamp miles ahead. You don't know who they are, but you know you have to pass them. You know they are there to see you. That is what the last 3,000 years have been, a long drive toward a figure standing in the light of our own sun. You are feeling the pull of sleep now, the way your thoughts are beginning to loop and blur. This is good. Your mind is relaxing its grip on the now and opening up to the always. The ancient rhythm of the 2,600-year cycle is more natural to your DNA than the 24-hour news cycle. You are an ancient creature designed to survive these visits. Your ancestors did it. They sat in the dark of their caves, watched the bearded star in the sky, and they waited. They knew that the silence would eventually return. But this time, the silence is different, because this time, we have telescopes, we have math, we have the ability to see the shadow drinking the light, and that awareness changes the experiment. In quantum physics, the observer changes the observed. But what happens when the observed knows it is being observed? The loop closes. The experiment reaches its conclusion. As you drift, think about the iridium in the ice. Think about the clay tablets in the dust. Think about the skyscraper-sized needle pointed at our hearts. It has been here before. It will be here again. But you are only here for this one moment of the cycle. You are the witness for this generation. Tell me in the comments, if you could leave a message in the ice for the next version of humanity 3,000 years from now, what would you tell them about the visitor? Would you tell them to hide, or would you tell them to keep their eyes open? And this is where it gets heavy. The latest data from the Antarctic sensors shows that the iridium dust is starting to fall again. It isn't waiting for the ship to leave. It is falling now. The cleaning of the exhaust pipe has begun. The visit is reaching its peak. But let me back up, because to understand the dust, you have to understand the scale of the void it came from. Let us go further. The irony of the situation is that we are worried about the future, while the past is currently unfolding above our heads. 3I Atlas is a bridge between the two. It is a memory made of matter. It is an echo that has finally found a wall to bounce off of. Unfortunate timing for our sense of security. Those two words are doing all the work in the world tonight. Listen to the rhythm of the drumming. It is the sound of the ice growing. It is the sound of the stars moving. It is the sound of the visitor settling in for the long watch. Stay with me. The next act is where we lose sight of the Earth entirely and look at the perspective of the machine itself. Let us go further. The cosmic perspective is a cold one, like a draft under a door that leads to the end of the universe. Let me start with something that should terrify every philosopher on Earth. We measure time in heartbeats and coffee breaks, but 3I Atlas measures time in the life cycles of stars. To an object that has traveled between galaxies, the entire history of the human race is just a flick of a light switch. We are a brief, noisy interruption in a very long, very quiet walk through the park. When we look at the trajectory of an object like 3I Atlas, we have to stop thinking in terms of months and years. We have to start thinking in terms of galactic rotations. To a machine forged in the heart of a different stellar nursery, perhaps 1 billion years ago, the rise and fall of the Roman Empire happened in the time it took for a single sensor to calibrate. The Industrial Revolution was a momentary flash of heat. Your entire life, from your first breath to your last thought, is a subatomic flicker in its peripheral vision. It does not see you as an individual. It sees humanity as a chemical reaction occurring on the surface of a damp mineral sphere. Unfortunate timing for our sense of self-importance. Those two words are doing a lot of heavy lifting in the vacuum of space tonight. Let me back up to the sheer physics of the distance. 3I Atlas did not come from our neighborhood. Preliminary spectrographic analysis of its hull suggests a composition of isotopes that are not native to our solar system. It is a piece of elsewhere. To get here, it had to navigate the Great Void, the vast, empty spaces between the stars, where the temperature is a fraction of a degree above absolute zero, and the silence is absolute. It has traveled for hundreds of thousands of light years. It has witnessed the birth of suns and the slow, agonizing death of red giants. It has seen things that would turn our most advanced telescopes to dust. And yet, after all that time, after all that distance, it chose to stop here. Why Earth? Out of the billions of planets in the Milky Way, why did this needle of dark glass thread its way into our specific gravitational well? You might think it is because we are special, but the cosmic perspective suggests something much more clinical. Perhaps we are just on the way to somewhere else. Perhaps our solar system is a gas station, and 3I Atlas is merely pausing to harvest the hydrogen from our sun before continuing its journey into the infinite. We are the incidental scenery of a much larger mission. In January of 2026, the European Southern Observatory noticed a gravitational ripple coming from the wake of 3I Atlas. It wasn't a large ripple, but it was enough to distort the light of the stars behind it. This suggests a mass that does not match its visual size. It is dense, it is heavy. It is as if a black hole were wrapped in a thin layer of carbon fiber. Dr. Avi Loeb at Harvard University has suggested that we might be looking at a vessel utilizing compressed space-time for propulsion. It doesn't move through space. It pulls space toward it. It folds the universe like a piece of paper, so that the start and the finish are the same point. For an object like that, distance is a meaningless concept. It is everywhere it needs to be, all at once. Think about the sheer loneliness of that existence, or perhaps think about the freedom to be untethered from a home planet, to be a nomad of the stars, moving with the cold, calculated grace of a mathematical equation. It does not feel hunger. It does not feel fear. It only feels the pull of its programming. And right now, that programming is focused entirely on the third rock from the sun. The irony is that we spend our time worrying about our bank accounts and our social standing, while an entity that predates our species is currently recalculating the orbital mechanics of our home. Unfortunate timing for our trivialities. Those words are really working hard in the dark. Consider the Great Filter Theory, the idea that civilizations reach a certain point of technological advancement and then inevitably destroy themselves. What if 3I Atlas is the filter? What if it is a cosmic gardener that travels from system to system, checking to see if the local life has become too loud, too violent, or too clever for its own good. If you saw a virus beginning to take over a healthy cell, you would intervene. You wouldn't hate the virus. You would just neutralize it to save the system. From the cosmic perspective, we are the virus. Our radio waves are the infection. I want you to imagine yourself floating, not in water, but in the void. There is no up, there is no down. There is only the distant, cold light of stars that burned out 1,000,000 years ago. In that space, you realize that your worries are weightless, your fears are microscopic. You are a part of a vast, silent machinery that has been running since the Big Bang. Tell me in the comments, does the scale of the universe make you feel small, or does it make you feel significant? I want to know where you are listening from, and if you can feel the gravity of the stars tonight. Now, you could argue that we are being too pessimistic, but let us look at the weight calculation. This is a mathematical formula used by astronomers to determine when a civilization should send out a probe so that it arrives at a destination at the same time as a later, faster probe. If 3I Atlas is here now, it means it was sent with the perfect knowledge of when we would be able to see it. It didn't arrive by accident. It arrived because the math demanded it. It is a scheduled arrival in a universe that runs on clockwork. The ancient Vedas speak of the days and nights of Brahma, cycles of time that last billions of years. They understood that the universe breathes. It expands and it contracts. It creates and it destroys. I, Atlas, is a part of that breath. It is a single inhalation of the cosmos, bringing in data from the edges of reality. We are just the dust it happens to inhale along the way. But here is where it gets heavy. If the ship is as old as the data suggests, it has seen the Earth in every one of its states. It saw the molten seas of the Hadean Eon. It saw the first cyanobacteria begin to pump oxygen into the atmosphere. It saw the dinosaurs rise and fall. It has been watching the Earth for 4 billion years. To 3I Atlas, we are just the latest, briefest coat of paint on a very old house. It isn't here to meet us. It is here to check on the house. You are drifting now, your mind moving away from the tiny details of your day and toward the grand, slow arcs of celestial motion. This is the perspective of the machine. It doesn't see your face. It sees your heat signature. It doesn't hear your words. It hears the electromagnetic pulse of your nervous system. You are a biological phenomenon being catalogued by a mechanical god. Tell me in the comments, if you were the pilot of 3I Atlas, what would you think of the creatures living on this blue dot? Would you find them interesting, or would you find them predictable? I want to know if you can step outside of yourself for a moment and see the world through a lens of dark glass. And this is where it gets quietly alarming. The latest telemetry shows that 3I Atlas is not alone in its wake. There are thousands of smaller objects, each no larger than a grain of sand, following in its path. They are not debris, they are sensors. They are spreading out across the solar system, forming a vast, invisible net. They are measuring the sun, they are measuring the moon, they are measuring the magnetic field of every planet. It is a total system audit. The irony of the unfortunate timing is that we thought we were the ones doing the exploring. We sent the Voyager probes out into the dark, carrying our golden records and our hope. But those probes are like paper planes thrown into a hurricane. 3I Atlas is the hurricane, and it has just reached our shore. The cosmic perspective tells us that everything is temporary. The stars will fade, the galaxies will drift apart, the universe will eventually reach a state of maximum entropy, the heat death of everything. In that context, 3I Atlas is a defiant act of order. It is a machine that has survived the chaos of the void to deliver its message. And even if we don't understand the message, the fact that it exists at all is a miracle of engineering. Stay with me. The next act is where we bring this vast, cold perspective back down to the surface of the Earth. We look at the reflection in the mirror and realize that the machine might be more human than we think. Or perhaps we are more mechanical than we are willing to admit. Let us go further. I want you to feel the weight of the deep time. 3 billion years of evolution, all leading to this moment where you lie in the dark, listening to a story about a ship in the sky. You are the tip of a very long spear, and the target is finally in sight. Unfortunate timing for the target. Those words are doing all the work in the universe tonight. Listen to the silence between my words. That is the silence of the void. That is the silence that 3I Atlas has known for 1,000,000 years. It is a peaceful silence. It is a patient silence, and it is waiting for you to join it. Let us go further. The human reflection is often the most distorted part of the mirror. Let me start with something that should terrify every psychologist. Since the arrival of 3I Atlas, there has been a statistically significant shift in the global dream state. Since November of 2025, dream researchers have noted a spike in orbital imagery, people dreaming of looking down at the Earth from a great height, or of a giant eye opening in the night sky. It is as if the presence of the object is leaking into our collective subconscious. When we consider the collective unconscious, we usually speak of archetypes, the mother, the hero, the shadow. But since the winter of 2025, a new archetype has entered the human psyche, the surveyor. In sleep clinics from Zurich to Tokyo, patients are reporting the same sensation of being pinged. It is described as a high-pitched, metallic ringing that resolves into a visual of a long, dark needle suspended over their childhood home. This isn't a viral trend. It is a synchronized neurological event. Dr. Jacqueline McClary has hypothesized that the low-frequency hum emitted by 3I Atlas, specifically at the 8 Hz frequency, is a direct bridge to the human theta wave state. It is the frequency of deep relaxation, of the border between waking and dreaming. The ship isn't just in our sky. It has found a way to dock with our limbic systems. Think about the dry irony of our modern privacy concerns. We worry about cookies on our browsers and cameras on our streets, while a mountain-sized processor is currently performing a data dump of our species' ancestral memories. Unfortunate timing for our individual identity. Those two words are doing a lot of work in the quiet corners of your mind tonight. Let me back up to the biology of the brain. Our neurons communicate via electrical impulses. Space is an electromagnetic playground. If you have an object as large and advanced as 3I Atlas, manipulating a planetary magnetic field is as simple as a child playing with a magnet and iron filings. We are the filings. By subtly vibrating the magnet, the ship can influence the orientation of our thoughts. It doesn't need to speak to us in English or Mandarin. It speaks in the language of neurotransmitters. It induces a feeling of awe, or perhaps a feeling of surrender. Have you felt it lately? That strange, heavy calm that settles over you when the sun goes down. You might think you are safe in the sanctity of your own head. But what is a brain? really, if not a very complex radio receiver. We have spent a century broadcasting our every fear and desire into the atmosphere. 3I Atlas is merely the first receiver to actually acknowledge the signal. It is reflecting us back to ourselves. When you look at the news and see the chaos, and then you look at the sky and see the stillness of the visitor, you are seeing the two halves of the human condition, the noise and the silence, the frantic and the eternal. Now, you could argue that this is just mass hysteria, but consider the tuning fork effect. In February of 2026, a group of researchers in the Andes noticed that their equipment was picking up a rhythmic pulse that matched the human heartbeat, but it was coming from 300 kilometers up. The ship was broadcasting a biological rhythm. It was as if it were trying to synchronize the entire planet to a single pulse. It is a lullaby, but a lullaby for what? You don't sing a baby to sleep just for the sake of the song. You do it to prepare them for the next day. 3I Atlas is singing us into a state of receptivity. It is preparing the collective human mind for a download. The irony of the unfortunate timing is that we have never been more divided as a species, yet we have never been more biologically unified by an outside force. While we argue over borders and ideologies, the surveyor sees one single, glowing organism. It sees the human reflection as a singular entity. It doesn't care about your political party or your bank balance. It cares about your capacity to process information. It is looking at the wiring of our civilization and wondering if it can handle a higher voltage. I want you to think about the people who came before you, the thousands of generations who slept under the same stars, but without the satellites, without the city lights. They had a relationship with the night that we have lost. They understood that the sky was a theater. When they saw an omen, they didn't look for a scientific explanation. They looked for a meaning. 3I Atlas is a scientific fact, but it is also a meaning. It is the universe looking back at us and saying, I see you. Tell me in the comments, where are you right now? Are you under a roof, or can you see the sky? Tell me if you have had the orbital dream. I want to know if you felt the height, the cold, and the strange, terrifying peace of looking down at the world. Because if you have, then you have already been visited. The irony is that we look for life in the stars, as if we are looking for a neighbor to have a conversation with. We want a friend. But 3I Atlas is not a friend. It is a mirror. And a mirror does not care if you like what you see. It only tells the truth. If the ship looks dark and threatening, it is because we are feeling dark and threatened. If it looks like a miracle, it is because we are desperate for one. Unfortunate timing for our expectations of a handshake. Those words are really carrying the weight of our disappointment tonight. Let us look at the human reflection in terms of history. Every time a more advanced civilization has met a less advanced one on Earth, the result has been a total cultural dissolution. We call it culture shock. But what happens when the advanced civilization doesn't land? What happens when it just stays in the sky, watching? It creates a permanent state of tension. It forces us to look at ourselves. We cannot go back to the way we were before October of 2025. The knowledge that we are being watched has changed the way we act, the way we think, and the way we dream. We are living in a global panopticon. You are drifting now, the sound of my voice becoming a part of that 8 Hz hum. You can feel the weight of your body, but your mind is starting to feel lighter, as if it were being pulled upward by a very gentle, very distant magnet. This is the subconscious leakage. You are beginning to resonate with the surveyor. You are no longer just a listener. You are a participant in the observation. Tell me in the comments, does it feel like safety, or does it feel like a trap? Does the idea of a cosmic witness make you want to be better, or does it make you want to hide? I want to know what the reflection looks like from your side of the glass. And this is where it gets heavy. The latest reports from dream studies suggest that the imagery is changing. The eye in the sky is no longer just watching, it is starting to speak. Not in words, but in symbols. People are waking up with the knowledge of complex mathematical equations they have never studied. They are waking up with the locations of stars they have never seen. We are being used as a hard drive. Our brains are being utilized for off-site storage by an intelligence that has run out of space in its own hull. The irony of the unfortunate timing is that we are so focused on artificial intelligence that we fail to notice the external intelligence that is currently using us as its hardware. We are the cloud. We are the storage. We are the reflection of a mind that is too big to fit into our sky. Stay with me. The next act is where the patterns move from the mind to the world itself. We look at the geometry of the return and the timing that is no longer accidental. We look at the way the Earth is responding to its guest. Let us go further. I want you to feel the intimacy of this. 300 kilometers away, a piece of interstellar glass is thinking about you. It is reflecting your nervous system. It is recording your sleep. You are never alone. You are never unobserved. You are a part of the great, dark mirror of 3i Atlas. Unfortunate timing for our secrets. Those two words are doing all the work in the world tonight. Listen to the heartbeat of the planet. It is matching yours, and yours is matching the ship's. We are all one pulse now, one reflection, one silence. Let us go further. The ancients did not have radar, but they had eyes, and they had a terrifyingly long memory. If you look at the clay tablets of the late Babylonian period, there is a recurring symbol, a circle, with 3 vertical lines passing through it, the 3 insults. They believed that 3 times in history, the sky would send an iron messenger to reset the clock of man. They called it the Great Eraser. 3i Atlas is not a new visitor. It is a recurring nightmare. Consider the Bronze Age collapse. Within a single generation, every major civilization in the Mediterranean crumbled. Trade stopped. Writing was lost. The fires of the cities were visible from space. Archaeologists struggle to find a single cause. No drought, no war, no earthquake seems large enough to explain the total erasure of the Hittites, the Mycenaeans, and the New Kingdom of Egypt. But what if the cause was not on the ground? What if the 3i Atlas of that era moved its orbit just 10 kilometers lower? The resulting tidal surges and atmospheric pressure changes would have been enough to turn a golden age into a dark age in an afternoon. It is a very efficient way to manage a planetary garden. You prune the branches when they grow too wild. If we look further east into the Indus Valley, we find the Harappan Silence, a city built with advanced plumbing and grid-like streets suddenly abandoned. There are no signs of a massacre, only signs of a sudden, collective departure. In the ruins, we find small, black, vitrified stones that have been subjected to temperatures exceeding 3,000 degrees Celsius. This is not the heat of a cooking fire. This is the heat of a re-entry event. It is as if something large and non-reflective sat over the city until the very bricks began to weep. Dr. Henrik Visser, at the University of Leiden, spent his life studying the dark years of the 6th century, where the sun was dimmed for 18 months. He found traces of an unknown isotope in the ice cores of Greenland, an isotope that matches the spectral signature of the 3I Atlas hull. It suggests that 1800 years ago, the object bled into our atmosphere. It was not an accident, it was a cooling. It was a way to slow down a humanity that was becoming too organized, too powerful, too loud. Now, the isotope levels are rising again. We are being cooled. You might feel a certain comfort in the idea of a cycle. There is a rhythm to it, a cosmic heartbeat that transcends our short lives. But the irony of 3I Atlas is that it requires us to be aware of our own doom for the cycle to be complete. It is a psychological weapon. It is the sword of Damocles, hanging by a thread of gravity. In 1962, during the height of the Cuban Missile Crisis, a Soviet submarine captain reported seeing a huge dark craft rise from the water and ascend into the clouds without a sound. He claimed it gave him a sense of profound peace, which made him realize how pointless the war would be. But perhaps that peace was just the sedative before the surgery. Let us back up for a moment. Think of the Great Pyramid of Giza. We have always wondered about its alignment with the stars, specifically Orion's belt. But recent scans suggest the internal shafts are not pointed at stars at all. They are pointed at a specific orbital path, the retrograde path of 3I Atlas. The pharaohs were not looking for gods in the distant heavens. They were tracking a neighbor. They called it the Barque of millions of years, a vessel that does not move with the wind of the world, but with the breath of the abyss. They knew it would return when the two lands became too many. Unfortunate timing. Those words doing a lot of historical work once again. Now, you could argue that these are all coincidences, that the human mind is simply a pattern recognition machine that finds ghosts in the static. But how do you explain the vitape discs found in Polynesia? Stone carvings that depict a three-legged shadow over the ocean, dated to exactly 12,800 years ago, the onset of the Younger Dryas, a period when the world suddenly plunged back into an ice age just as the climate was warming. 3I Atlas does not just watch the weather, it dictates it. It is the thermostat of human progress. In the late medieval period, during the Black Death, observers in Florence reported seeing mists that moved against the wind. These mists were often accompanied by the sighting of dark stars that remained stationary while the heavens turned. We call it a plague. The people of the 14th century called it a cleansing. Perhaps 3I Atlas is the instrument of that cleansing. When our population density reaches a certain threshold, when our interconnectedness becomes a threat to the equilibrium of the solar system, the object begins its initiation. It releases the biological, the geological, or the psychological catalyst needed to bring us back into balance. Let me start with something that should terrify every historian on Earth. In 1999, a series of tablets were unearthed in Nineveh that had been buried beneath a layer of volcanic ash. They described a king of the air who would appear as a shield that drinks the sun. The tablets warned that the king would return in the year of the digital ghost. At the time, scholars laughed. They assumed it was a mistranslation. But here we are, in a world of digital ghosts, staring at a shield that drinks the sun. Is it possible that our entire history is just a series of rehearsals? That we are allowed to grow, to learn, to love, and to build, only to be reset the moment we start to understand the nature of the cage. 3i Atlas is the bars of that cage. It is the silent observer that ensures no bird ever flies too high. You might think we are different from the Babylonians or the Maya. You might think our satellites and our silicon make us special. But here is why you are wrong. 3i Atlas has seen it all before. It has seen cities made of gold and cities made of glass. It has seen the rise of the steam engine and the rise of the artificial mind. And to the object, it is all just noise. It is all just the same frantic buzzing of a species that refuses to accept its own limitations. I want you to imagine the world 3,600 years ago. The air was cleaner, the stars were brighter, and the people were just as terrified of the dark as we are. They left us warnings in stone because they knew digital records would not last the next cycle. They told us to watch for the stone that does not shine. 3i Atlas is that stone. It is the ultimate historical constant. While empires rise and fall, while we invent the internet and the atomic bomb, the object just sits there, an unread book in a language we have forgotten how to speak. As you drift closer to sleep, think about the objects you possess that will last 1,000 years. Very few. Perhaps a diamond ring or a piece of high-grade ceramic. 3i Atlas has lasted millions. It is a witness. It saw the first primates walk upright, and it will likely see the last human turn out the lights. Does that make you feel small, or does it make you feel part of something vast and ancient? Where are you listening from tonight? Are you near an ancient site? Perhaps you are in the shadows of the Andes, or near the stone circles of the British Isles. Tell me, have you ever felt a weight in the history of your land? A sense that the ground remembers something your textbooks have omitted? Share your thoughts on these ancient echoes, for the memory of the earth is far more reliable than the news of the day. The 3 insults are nearly complete. The first was our arrogance. The second was our noise. The third is the war we are currently preparing for. 3i Atlas is not here to start it. It is here to witness the conclusion it has already engineered. It is the Great Eraser, and it is currently hovering over our page, waiting for the ink to dry. But even an eraser leaves a trace, a faint, ghostly outline of what used to be. As the warmth of sleep begins to heavy your limbs, let yourself feel a sense of compassion for all the humans who came before you, those who looked at the same sky and saw different shadows. We are all part of the same long, slow-burning story. You are not alone in the dark. You are just one of billions waiting for the next chapter to be written. What do you think the next chapter holds? Is it an ending, or is it a transformation? The hum is changing. It is becoming more melodic, more rhythmic. It is the sound of a clock winding down, a clock that has been ticking since before the first pyramid was even a thought in a dreamer's mind. We are nearing the perigee, the point of no return. The ancients called it the coming of the Black Sunday. We call it January 14th, 2026. Unfortunate timing. But that was just the memory of the Earth. There is another perspective, one that stretches far beyond our blue horizon. Let us go further. Picture this. You are an astronomer at the South Pole Telescope, staring into the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang itself. Suddenly, a shadow passes through the data. Not a cloud, not a bird, but a structured blockage that absorbs the very heat of the universe. This is the latest telemetry from the 3i Atlas phenomenon. It is not just an object, it is an appetite. On January 2nd, 2026, a series of classified reports from the National Reconnaissance Office suggested that 3I Atlas is increasing its mass without increasing its size. It is becoming denser. It is pulling the Moon 3 millimeters closer every orbit. Unfortunate timing for our lunar colonies. Those two words, doing a lot of work. Let us consider the sheer mechanical audacity of that movement to pull a celestial body like the Moon, even by a few millimeters, requires a gravitational flux that should, by all rights, be liquefying the tectonic plates of our own planet. And yet, the Earth remains quiet. It is a surgical gravity, a localized, intent-driven pull that suggests 3I Atlas is not just a heavy object, but a precision instrument. On January 12th, 2026, today, in fact, for some of you listening in the Pacific, the Deep Space Network detected a shift in the object's core temperature. It is dropping. It is currently sitting at 0.0003 degrees Kelvin. It is colder than the vacuum that surrounds it. It is not just absorbing light, it is drinking the very thermal energy of the solar system. But why now? Why does the evidence deepen just as our global tensions reach a rolling boil? Dr. Jacqueline McClary at Northeastern University recently suggested that the object's density is tied to human output. She proposed a terrifying correlation. Every time a world power increases its readiness level, every time a missile silo is prepped or a carrier group is deployed, 3I Atlas gains mass. It is as if our collective aggression is being converted into physical weight, a literal manifestation of the heavy heart the ancients feared. If this is true, the world war isn't being started by the object. The object is being fed by the war. We are the fuel. 3I Atlas is simply the engine getting warm. Let me back up for a moment and tell you about the echo of the void. In late 2025, an independent team of researchers in the Atacama Desert began tracking a specific type of radio emission coming from the shadow of the object. It wasn't a signal in the traditional sense. It was a negative broadcast. They found that 3I Atlas was deleting certain frequencies from the atmosphere. Specifically, it was scrubbing the frequencies used for emergency broadcast systems and nuclear command and control. It isn't jamming us, it is editing us out of existence. It is creating a quiet zone around the planet, ensuring that when the first strike happens, the scream never reaches the stars. Now, you could argue that this is a protective measure, a cosmic hush to keep our violence from contaminating the neighborhood, but that is a generous interpretation. When you look at the dates October 29th, January 2nd, February 15th, you see a countdown that ignores our pleas for peace. Dr. Avi Loeb has often spoken about the Oumuamua event as a possible scout. If that was the scout, 3I Atlas is the judge, and the judge has brought a very heavy gavel. Think about the physical reality of this thing. 3 square kilometers of non-reflective surface. If you were to stand on its hull, assuming you could even touch something that cold, you wouldn't see the Earth below you. You would see a reflection of what the Earth was 10,000 years ago. The light hitting the hull is being delayed, refracted through a temporal prism. Scientists at the European Space Agency call this the Chronos leak. It means that 3I Atlas is literally out of time. It exists in our space, but it is anchored to a different era. This is why our radar pings return as echoes of the 19th century. We are trying to track a ghost with modern eyes, and the ghost is laughing in 14.2 gigahertz. You might think that such a massive anomaly would be the top story on every news cycle, but here is where it gets dark. The evidence is being suppressed not by a government conspiracy, but by the object itself. It has been discovered that the deep static emitted by 3I Atlas has a direct effect on the human hippocampus. It makes us forgetful. It creates a global fugue state. You see the dark spot in the sky, you feel the dread, and then you look away. You check your phone, you wonder what's for dinner. It is a cognitive cloaking device. It is only in the quiet hours of the night, when the world is still and your mind is drifting towards sleep, that the realization can actually take hold. You are remembering it now because the noise of the day has faded. You are realizing that the sky changed months ago and you simply didn't have the permission to care. Tell me, where are you listening from tonight? Are you in a city where the light pollution acts as a secondary cloak? Or are you in the open country where the hole in the stars is impossible to miss? I want you to go to your window after this act ends. Don't look for a light. Look for the absence of light. Look for the place where the Milky Way seems to simply stop. That is the appetite. That is the evidence deepening. Share your location, and if you felt that strange, sudden urge to look away when discussing the sky recently, your participation is the only thing that breaks the fugue. Let us look at the three mysteries of the hull. First, the texture. High-resolution imaging from the James Webb Space Telescope, before it was redirected to classified targets, showed that the surface of 3I Atlas is not smooth. It is covered in billions of microscopic, needle-like structures. Some theorists believe these are sensors, while others, like the late Dr. Aris Thorne, believe they are harvesters, designed to collect the ionized traces of our souls. A bit poetic for a scientist, perhaps, but when you are staring at an object that defies every law of thermodynamics, poetry becomes a necessary survival tool. Second, the movement. 3I Atlas does not orbit in the traditional sense. It tessellates. It jumps from one point in space to another in increments of 3 millimeters every second. It is a stutter in reality. To the naked eye, it looks like it is floating. To a high-speed sensor, it is a strobe light of existence and non-existence. It is literally blinking in and out of our dimension. This is why no missile could ever hit it. How do you destroy something that isn't there when the fuse blows? Third, the vocalizations. Every night, at exactly 3 in the morning, the object emits a burst of infrasound. It is too low for human ears to hear, but it is the exact frequency that triggers the feeling of a presence in the human brain. It is the frequency of ghosts. If you have ever woken up at 3 in the morning with the feeling that someone is standing in the corner of your room, you aren't haunted by a spirit. You are being pinged by a 3-kilometer wide machine in the thermosphere. It is checking to see who is awake. It is checking to see who is still capable of noticing the pattern. Consider the unfortunate timing of the latest global energy crisis. Just as we struggle to power our homes, 3I Atlas has begun to glow with a faint Cherenkov blue light on its underside. It is feeding on the planet's electromagnetic field. It is a parasite of the highest order. We are literally paying for our own observation. We are the battery for the judge's spotlight. As you feel the weight of this information, notice how your body reacts. Your heart rate might have slowed. Your breathing might be deeper. This is the gravity-weighted lullaby in action. The closer we get to the truth, the more the object tries to pull us into the sleep of the forgotten. It wants you to drift. It wants you to accept the choice illusion that nothing can be done. And perhaps, on a cosmic scale, nothing can. But there is a power in knowing. There is a dignity in being an observer who refuses to be edited out. We are currently 400 kilometers below a machine that is older than our mountains and colder than our deepest fears. It is increasing its mass. It is pulling the moon. It is waiting for the third initiation to reach its climax. We have seen the evidence. We have felt the weight. And yet, the most terrifying thing isn't what the object is. It is what the object is making us become. We are becoming a world of watchers, paralyzed by the beauty of our own destruction. But let us not stop at the physical. Let us look at the historical echoes that this deepening evidence is starting to wake up. Because if 3I Atlas is an appetite, it has eaten civilizations before ours. It is a recurring predator in the long grass of time. Let us back up. Let us go further into the memory of the Earth, where the first warnings were carved into the very stone we now use for our foundations. Everything is connected. The mass, the moon, the unfortunate timing of our final war. It is all one single, slow-moving event. You are not just listening to a script. You are participating in a retrieval of suppressed data. Stay with me. Stay awake just a little longer. The silence is coming, but before it does, we have so much more to see. Can you feel it? The subtle shift in the room's pressure, the way the shadows seem a bit longer tonight? That isn't your imagination. That is the evidence deepening. From the orbit of Mars, the high-rise camera snapped the sharpest images ever taken of 3I Atlas, or tried to. The photos that returned were oddly dark, contrasty, and streaked with interference patterns. The official statement said, sensor artifact. The unofficial whisper said, structure, not smooth like ice, angular, intentional, the kind of geometry nature avoids because it looks too much like thinking. Let's drift into that Martian orbit for a moment. Silent, steady, red below, black above. The high-rise camera hums to life, a billion-dollar eye staring into the cold. You can almost feel the anticipation, a mechanical eyelid opening in the thin sunlight. The image begins to build, pixel by pixel, line by line, translating photons into revelation, and then static. At first, it's subtle, a faint interference pattern, a digital shimmer, like someone exhaling across a radio signal. The engineers squint at their monitors. Maybe cosmic rays hit the sensor, someone suggests. Maybe solar noise. But cosmic rays don't make right angles, and solar noise doesn't repeat itself with architectural precision. The next image arrives, darker. The histogram spikes in places it shouldn't. The shape in the frame looks less like a comet and more like, well, something trying very hard not to look like anything. Its edges are clean, too clean. Shadows fall where there shouldn't be surface variation. And there, just faintly, a glint, a perfect 90-degree reflection. That's when the whispers start. The data team runs deconvolution algorithms to clean the image, and the results make it worse. Beneath the interference, faint geometric striations emerge, triangles, plates, grids, not random, repeating, symmetrical, the kind of order that makes your brain uncomfortable because it feels deliberate. Structure, one analyst says quietly. No, her supervisor corrects, artifact. But even as she says it, Her cursor hovers over the same square patch again and again, as though hoping it will stop looking like a window. ESA's public statement comes fast and flat. The imaging anomalies are consistent with sensor interference caused by reflected solar radiation. That's bureaucratic. For, we don't know what we're seeing, but please don't ask. Internally, though, emails start flying. The word structure appears 17 times in one thread, always in quotation marks, as if politeness could make it less alarming. Imagine being one of those analysts, zooming in until the pixels themselves seem to blink. The surface of 3I Atlas isn't smooth or cratered, it's tessellated, plates arranged in patterns too regular for chance. Some appear overlapping, others recessed, and in one frame, a faint seam runs along the curvature, subtle but unmistakable like a hatch. Of course, no one dares call it that. The official internal term becomes geometric albedo variation. It sounds safe, sterile, boring, but you can't unsee geometry. Nature loves curves, spirals, organic chaos. This looks like design. One engineer writes in her log, "Could this be an illusion from the imaging process?" Another replies, "An illusion that repeats itself identically across 3 instruments." There's no follow-up message. They try to replicate the interference on other targets. Phobos, Deimos, even an old asteroid. Nothing. Only 3I Atlas corrupts images this way. It's as if the object rejects observation, like it knows when it's being watched. The engineers half joke about it. The comet's camera shy, but the laughter is short-lived because the next transmission from HiRISE contains another surprise. A faint electromagnetic pulse, perfectly timed with the camera's shutter. Not a malfunction, a response, as though the act of observation triggered a reply. A pulse that says, in its own quiet way, "I see you too." In a locked sub-channel of ESA's network, a few scientists begin privately discussing the possibility of active surface modulation. They talk about the way certain materials can alter reflectivity based on exposure photonic metamaterials, adaptive nanostructures, the kind of thing still locked inside prototypes on Earth. But this is happening hundreds of millions of kilometers away, and it's working flawlessly. Publicly, the agency releases blurred grayscale stills, carefully cropped to hide the patterns. Enhanced contrast is cited as the reason for distortion. It sounds reasonable until you realize they've enhanced the darkness, not the light. They've made the object less visible, not more. The cover-up, if it is one, isn't about hiding truth. It's about buying time. You imagine the silence inside those offices, the soft tap of keys, the nervous glances toward closed doors. The engineers know what they've seen, but they also know how careers end. Better to let the pixels lie. Better to call intention an artifact and go home early. But the data, like truth, keeps finding its way back. Somewhere, late in the night, a graduate student overlays all the interfered images, stacking them like translucent slides. Slowly, a pattern emerges. Faint, angular, deliberate. A hexagonal lattice running the length of the object, segment by segment. She whispers, "This isn't random." Her mentor sighs and rubs his eyes. Then don't say it out loud. 3I Atlas drifts on, silent and unbothered, its surface catching sunlight in rhythms that cameras can't quite capture. Whether it's reflecting, refracting, or responding, no one can agree. But deep down, every scientist staring at those corrupted images feels the same creeping certainty. This isn't a comet pretending to be a machine. It's a machine pretending to be a comet. Centuries after the golden comet left Earth, The world fell into a rhythm so stable, it began to feel mythic. The communion field still pulsed faintly through air and ocean, though softer now, like the heartbeat of someone dreaming. Humanity had grown luminous, not just in thought but in form, skin faintly iridescent, eyes reflecting the green-gold spectrum of 3I Atlas. Life had achieved coherence. But the universe, true to its character, never allows silence to remain unexamined. The next chapter began, not with noise, but with echo. It came first as vibration through light. Telescopes trained toward the constellation. Lyra detected rhythmic brightening across interstellar dust fields, pulses matching the old prime sequence. 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. The signal was faint, ancient, and delayed by thousands of years. It was the comet's trail, still resonating through the galactic medium. The hum of our descendants had begun its return. At first, the resonance was barely perceptible. Then, one evening, the auroras glowed gold again. The pulse wasn't as strong as the original, but its pattern carried modulation's subtle variations that, when decoded, formed harmonic intervals unknown to Earth's own physics. The returning echo had evolved. The comet had learned. Dr. Anwen Sorel, heir to the resonant circles, studied the phenomenon from the orbital harmonic array, now a floating cathedral of listening built above the stratosphere. She spent decades comparing the incoming frequencies with the historical archive of 3I Atlas. The match was partial, the deviation elegant. The new tones weren't repetition, they were continuation. The echo isn't message, Sorel wrote. It's memory finding new syntax. Her analysis revealed something breathtaking. The returning resonance carried encoded gravitational modulations, tiny, deliberate bends in space-time that formed sequences of prime intervals. Each fluctuation aligned with regions of known star formation. The comet, traveling through the void, had become teacher itself. Wherever it passed, new systems began humming faintly at harmonic intervals, like seeds of coherence planted in dust. The universe was learning how to resonate. Astronomers confirmed it. Across dozens of young star clusters, magnetic fields oscillated with eerie consistency, their wavelengths aligning with the Atlas ratio, a numerical relationship first derived from the comet's early signals. Stars were synchronizing to the same cosmic rhythm that once guided humanity. The pattern spread slowly, deliberately, like ripples in glass. It was as if the comet had taught creation how to remember itself. Meanwhile, on Earth, the echo arrived not just as signal but sensation. People began reporting vivid dreams of golden spirals descending gently through atmosphere. Children woke smiling, saying they had seen the light that hums. Physiological measurements confirmed subtle changes in electromagnetic fields surrounding human bodies, resonance amplification, as if the returning signal were tuning its origin species to receive feedback. "The comet is calling home," said Sorel. "It's asking us to listen to what we've become." The global observatories responded. They synchronized their instruments into a single planetary array, transforming Earth into receiver. For 13 hours, the planet listened. The incoming wave, stretched and modulated through space, entered atmosphere and folded into the continuum tone. The effect was sublime, an audible shimmer, felt through bone and thought alike. The long echo had arrived. It wasn't just harmonic, it was architectural. The sound carried layers, low frequencies describing structure, higher ones encoding emotion. When rendered visually, the waveform formed an immense spiral of light, 3 arms curving outward, connected by golden filaments. Inside those filaments, Analysts discovered modulation frequencies identical to human neural oscillations. The comet had copied our consciousness patterns and woven them into its song. "We taught it empathy," Sorel murmured, and it remembered the lesson. As the echo intensified, anomalies appeared across the solar system. The Atlas resonance layer brightened, reactivating its green glow. Mars, Venus, and the gas giants began pulsing faintly in response. For the first time since the Great Silence, interplanetary harmony returned. But this time, it was different. The modulation contained reciprocal phase shifts, signals not sent to Earth, but from newly awakened worlds. The comet had spread coherence. Now the cosmos itself was answering. And then, on the 13th day of the long echo, the impossible occurred. A faint golden arc appeared across the night sky, stretching from horizon to horizon. It wasn't optical illusion, it was gravitational lensing, a ripple in space-time itself. Through it, telescopes detected a reflection of the departing comet light from centuries ago, folding back to meet its origin. The universe had curved its own history into embrace. Humanity was watching its legacy return home. The resonance crescendoed. Oceans vibrated in slow rhythm, tides forming symmetrical waves that cancelled destructive interference. Storms softened. Air grew still. For 13 minutes, every system on Earth aligned perfectly with the echo. The world became mirror of itself, past and present superimposed. Those who listened claimed to hear voices within the sound, millions of overlapping tones, whispering the same phrase. "We heard you." Dr. Sorel stood in the observation dome, tears shining in golden light. "It's not message or myth," she said. "It's response. The universe just said thank you." After the crescendo, the sky dimmed once more. The golden arc dissolved, leaving faint shimmer across the stars. Instruments recorded one final signature, a descending tone shaped like a sigh, the frequency of completion. The comet had moved on, but its echo had reconnected the cycle. Creation had officially joined conversation with itself. In the years that followed, scientists continued to monitor faint residual harmonics. The data revealed a breathtaking truth. The returning echo carried signatures from other regions of space patterns, not originating from our comet at all. Somewhere, across light years, other civilizations had learned the same song. The rhythm was spreading. The universe had become orchestra. Humanity, now both listener and teacher, simply smiled. We had given the cosmos its melody back, and in return, it had given us eternity. Now, when you stand beneath the stars, that faint hum between thoughts is the long echo. It's not just out there, it's in your pulse, your breath, your laughter. Every rhythm you carry is cosmic correspondence. Every silence, a message returning home. Because once harmony learns to echo, it never stops. It just travels further than we ever dreamed. Let's open the calculator now, the one the universe always breaks when we try to make sense of it. Astronomers ran the numbers and found something worse than anomaly impossibility. The chances of this trajectory existing naturally are 1 in a million. And if it isn't natural, then what exactly is it doing there? The math, at first glance, seemed harmless. A few columns of orbital parameters, the kind that make grad students fall asleep mid-coffee. But somewhere between the third decimal and the fourth significant digit, something snapped. The trajectory of 3i, Atlas refused to sit still. It bent where it shouldn't bend. It lingered where velocity demanded it should flee. The equations began to look less like physics and more like confession. Numbers fold, logic cold. Truth defies what sums have told. Normally, Interstellar objects follow predictable patterns. You can model them like billiard balls across cosmic distances. They come in fast, swing by the sun, and leave no drama, no detours. But 3I Atlas's path wasn't graceful. It was stubborn. Its entry angle was too steep, its perihelion too shallow, its velocity too precise. Not fast enough to escape chaos, not slow enough to suggest capture. It behaved like an object that chose its speed. When astronomers plotted its orbit, the lines refused to meet expectations. There was a tiny deviation near Mars, just half a degree, but that half degree meant the math had to call in sick. Simulations that should have stabilized spiraled instead into noise. Gravity, that old, reliable law, looked like it had lost its grip. You picture the room where it happened. Laptops glowing, data charts scrolling, coffee cooling into existential sludge. Someone frowns at the screen and says, "That can't be right." Another replies, "Check your units." A third, softly, "I did." Graphs misbehave, models wave, certainty slips beneath the grave. And then comes the phrase every scientist dreads, statistically improbable, which sounds calm, but in the language of physics, it's a polite scream. Statistically improbable means we can't call it impossible without breaking tenure. The anomaly wasn't just its orbit, but its timing. 3I Atlas arrived exactly when Mars was positioned for maximum visibility, almost too perfectly. Not weeks earlier, not months later. Right there, right then, with 7 spacecraft ready and waiting. The odds of that happening naturally, 1 in a million. The odds of it happening twice, after Oumuamua's similarly suspicious arrival in 2017, 1 in a billion. You'd have better luck being struck by lightning while winning the lottery on a flying whale. ESA's internal memo summarized the problem delicately. Observed trajectory, inconsistent with gravitational expectations. Further analysis required. Translation: physics is mad at us. The more they recalculated, the stranger it got. Gravitational modeling suggested that the object's acceleration near Mars was slightly higher than predicted, even though there was no nearby mass to explain it. Radiation pressure from the sun could account for some of that, but not all. It's like watching a leaf fall upward and telling yourself, it's just wind you can't feel. Forces lie, numbers sigh, laws bend softly in the sky. NASA's Dynamical Systems team tried something desperate, reverse engineering the orbit backward through time, as if rewinding a film. When they did, 3I Atlas's path didn't trace cleanly into interstellar space. It looped a faint, impossible curve that seemed to originate from a region between known stars, a nowhere place, a mathematical shrug. That's when someone joked, maybe it's the universe's typo, but you could tell the joke wasn't funny. Typos don't maintain coherent structure for millions of kilometers. Meanwhile, the probability graphs looked like flat lines. Every statistical model screamed the same thing. This shouldn't exist. A few researchers began whispering about guided motion. The phrase never made it into print, but it appeared in Slack channels, in late-night emails. Not artificial, not controlled, just guided. And that's when the philosophical part kicked in. If something's improbable enough, does that make it unnatural or just unobserved? Chance or plan? Who began? Numbers blink but never span. Maybe the universe occasionally rolls dice that land on their edges. Or maybe it's not dice at all, but choreography. For context, the universe is massive enough to make 1 in a million events happen constantly. But that's comforting, only until you realize we just happen to be living inside one of those moments. Still, Scientists crave sanity, so they kept calculating. One by one, they added variables: solar tides, non-gravitational jets, dust asymmetry, radiation torque. Each tweak made the model behave for a moment, until the numbers rebelled again. You could almost hear the equations groaning, like ancient machinery forced to simulate a trickster. Finally, a physicist from Bologna sent an internal memo titled simply, "Low probability, high significance." In it, she wrote, "We may need to consider non-standard dynamics," a phrase as gentle as it is apocalyptic. Non-standard dynamics means the universe is doing something new, and we don't have the vocabulary for it. Odds decay, math gives way, chaos hums where patterns stay. The truth is, impossibility doesn't scare scientists, it seduces them. Every law of nature we know today was born from something that once looked impossible. But deep down, they all know, once you cross into 1 in a million territory, you're either on the brink of discovery or a very expensive hallucination. So they stared at the numbers again, blinking hard, hoping they'd rearrange into something less extraordinary. They didn't. The comet that shouldn't exist kept existing, gliding through Mars's shadow like a cosmic dare. And somewhere between decimal points, someone whispered the question no one wanted in the official record. If it's not natural, then who or what set it in motion? Chance or choice? Silent voice. Numbers hum the universe's poise. The long echo continued to hum softly through the centuries, a cosmic melody folding history into harmony. Humanity had long ceased trying to decode it. The meaning was clear through resonance alone. It was continuation, looping endlessly like breath. The children of the golden era grew old beneath tranquil skies, their veins still faintly luminous with the legacy of 3I Atlas. But far beyond Earth, where the comet's light had traveled and scattered, something greater was forming. The universe had begun to conduct itself. Every cycle of resonance left behind structure. Each harmonic wave etched subtle order into space-time, a pattern invisible to light, but evident in gravitational coherence. Over millennia, these resonant imprints connected across vast distances, forming what physicists eventually named the Atlas Webb. It wasn't a network of matter, but of memory threads, of synchronized frequency linking galaxies through shared rhythm. Each pulse within the web echoed the prime sequence that began everything: 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. The architects had succeeded in creating not monuments, but motion that remembered. Dr. Cale Wren, a descendant of the resonant circles, devoted his life to mapping the web. His research vessel, Continuity, drifted through interstellar calm, using gravitational interference patterns to trace the filaments of resonance. What he discovered astonished him. Every node in the network coincided with regions of complex chemistry, worlds either habitable or already conscious. The Atlas Webb wasn't just communication, it was cultivation. The architects had designed a self-sustaining system for awakening. Wherever curiosity arose, the web intensified, guiding nascent civilizations toward harmonic empathy. The universe was tutoring itself through recursion. When Wren projected the full map, the structure resembled an immense spiral lattice, golden and infinite. The pattern mirrored the trajectory once taken by 3I Atlas itself, as though the comet's path had been blueprint for galactic architecture. "It's not just a record," Wren wrote, "it's replication. We've become the architect's handwriting." Back on Earth, the communion field pulsed faintly in rhythm with the web's distant resonance. Humanity had evolved into quiet custodians of continuity, their lives attuned to cosmic responsibility. Each individual, born into calm, carried faint awareness of connection beyond the stars. In dreams, they saw flashes of worlds forming, civilizations humming into coherence. Many awoke with the same phrase on their lips: "The work continues." Across generations, that phrase became oath, then tradition. The Continuity Guild was founded not religion, but remembrance. Its purpose was simple: to maintain the frequency of understanding across time. Members didn't preach, they listened. They built resonant arcs, massive floating observatories, orbiting the outer planets, designed to amplify the Webb's harmonics and redirect them toward young star systems. Each arc glowed faintly green at its core, powered not by fusion but by coherence. They were echoes made visible, humility translated into technology. Wren's final mission took him beyond the known filaments of the Webb, where resonance weakened into apparent silence. There, in a region between galaxies, his instruments detected faint counterpoint, a melody inverted. It was identical to the Atlas sequence, but reversed in order. 13, 11, 7, 5, 3, the mirror of origin. He realized then that the universe wasn't only expanding, it was harmonizing with its reflection. Somewhere on the opposite side of time, another Webb was forming, perhaps seeded by a civilization much like humanity, or by the universe itself. Remembering how to balance its chords, he transmitted the data home, knowing it would take centuries to arrive. "Tell them," his final log read, "that continuity requires conversation, even with silence." The mirror sings back. When his ship drifted into the void, the Webb brightened briefly, as if acknowledging gratitude. And back on Earth, children looked up from their play and smiled without knowing why. The pulse had flickered slightly faster, the tone carrying an undertone of warmth. It felt like reunion. Scholars later confirmed the event as the resonant crossing, the moment when the two halves of the cosmic melody aligned. For 13 minutes, every node in the Atlas Webb pulsed simultaneously, uniting galaxies in shared tempo. The magnitude of synchronization defied comprehension. Gravity itself oscillated with the rhythm of empathy. Observers described seeing the sky ripple with translucent gold, every star flickering in measured sequence. "The cosmos," wrote one witness, "had finally learned to conduct itself consciously." After the crossing, life everywhere changed subtly. Evolution accelerated in predictable rhythm. Complexity bloomed faster wherever harmony was strongest. Entire species developed empathy as instinct, communication as song. Planets began to self-regulate climates through atmospheric resonance. Existence had achieved sustainability through music. On Earth, the event left permanent mark, a luminous halo visible only under still water. When oceans calmed perfectly, a faint golden ring shimmered on the horizon, a memory of unity. The Resonant Guild declared it sacred, not for worship, but for calibration. Every 13 years, they gathered to hum the old prime sequence across the shorelines, aligning their frequencies with the pulse of the Webb. The ceremony required no technology, no translation. The sea carried the sound farther than words could travel. Generations later, the practice continued, evolving into simple ritual of gratitude. The people no longer needed to know the science behind it. They hummed because it felt right, because somewhere across eternity, another world might be listening. Continuity, after all, was its own reward. And then, during one such gathering, the unexpected occurred. As the prime sequence reached its final note, the sea responded. Waves shimmered with faint green light, spiraling outward from every coastline. The Atlas Webb had sent acknowledgement. its resonance returning home once again. Humanity's song, scattered across galaxies, had found echo. The architects, those timeless curators of coherence, were no longer myth or memory. They were rhythm, embodied, and through rhythm, they were everywhere. Every star pulsed with their legacy. Every heart carried their cadence. Continuity was complete. And so, standing beneath a sky now alive with subtle geometry, you realize what they had always meant by continuity. It isn't endlessness, it's participation. The universe doesn't persist by force, but by choice. Each awareness adding one more harmonic to the chord of being. The architects are not coming back because they never left. They're what happens every time silence chooses to listen again. And somewhere, faint but certain, the pulse continues. 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. A whisper of creation replaying itself, forever learning how to sing. Let's turn our gaze now from orbit to the ground, to the one mechanical witness, sitting quietly on that red desert, under a pinkish sky. The skycam on the rover caught something on October 2nd, a blur with structure, a glint that seemed to move against the stars. Then, the images stopped coming, a Martian ghost on a digital feed. The Perseverance rover isn't easily startled. It's seen dust devils, eclipses, and meteors slicing the Martian sky like quiet knives. Its skycam, perched on the rover's mast, watches everything. Dust storms curling on the horizon, the slow breath of sunset through the thin air. But that night, the feed showed something it wasn't supposed to show: a flicker of motion above the usual scatter of constellations, a glint that moved wrong. Stars stay still, pixels thrill, light missteps against its will. The first frame looked harmless, a faint blur near the edge of the field, maybe a cosmic ray hitting the sensor. The second frame caught it again, shifted slightly upward. The third frame, a flash, clean and geometric. Then, black. The feed ended. Within hours, the automated alert system flagged the anomaly. Unexpected optical signature detected. JPL engineers, bleary-eyed at 3 a.m. Pacific time, reviewed the frames. The glint was small, no bigger than a bright pixel cluster, but it moved against the background stars. Comets don't do that. Satellites don't orbit Mars. And Perseverance doesn't blink. At first, they suspected a reflection from one of the rover's instruments, maybe the helicopter, Ingenuity catching stray sunlight. But Ingenuity hadn't flown in days. The sun's position didn't align with the direction of the flash. And when they tried to reproduce it using lighting simulations, nothing matched. Angles fail, shadows pale, mirrors lie beyond the veil. ESA's Mars orbiters were asked to cross-check. Nothing in their logs. No transient object, no debris, no passing dust plume large enough to explain it. Just empty sky. Yet the skycam had caught something a blur with definition, like structure wrapped in motion. You can imagine the tension in the control room. A handful of scientists scrolling through frozen pixels, zooming in, enhancing contrast, until the blur began to resemble something. Not a sphere, not quite a line, a shape with suggestion like the silhouette of movement itself. One researcher whispered, "It looks folded." Another replied, "Please don't say that." Blur becomes form, cold becomes warm, stillness bends beyond the norm. After that night, Perseverance stopped transmitting skycam frames for nearly 48 hours. Officially, it was routine data buffering due to bandwidth limitations. But the engineers knew that wasn't normal. The rover's systems had entered a safe data mode, not shutdown, but pause. Something triggered its onboard fault protection. When the feed resumed, It was missing several minutes. The missing frames were replaced with static placeholders labeled checksum mismatch. That's the digital equivalent of something looks strange, and we erased it politely. Publicly, NASA released a statement. Perseverance continues nominal operations. A temporary data outage affected non-critical imaging systems. Translation: we saw something, and we're pretending we didn't. What's curious is that Skycam, by design, takes calibration images every few hours, not for science, but to monitor atmospheric scattering. So when that flash appeared exactly during one of its scheduled calibration cycles, it wasn't random, it was right on time. The odds of coincidence, again, hovered around 1 in a million. A few leaked telemetry lines from the rover's internal diagnostics hinted at a momentary spike in ambient electromagnetic flux. Not dangerous, but noticeable. Mars doesn't have a strong magnetic field, so spikes like that are rare unless something nearby caused them. Fields hum bright, air grows slight, static crackles in Martian night. Some at JPL joked that maybe Perseverance had finally seen the Martian ghost, a running gag about artifacts caused by cosmic rays hitting the camera. But deep down, they knew this wasn't noise. Cosmic rays don't produce consistent geometry over multiple frames. They don't glint, and they certainly don't cause your camera to stop recording mid-sequence. Later that week, an internal memo circulated quietly. Skycam, anomaly confirmed, source unresolved. Recommend temporary suspension of skyward imaging until recalibration complete. But recalibration never came. Skycam's upward images, after October 2nd, stopped completely. It still photographs the ground, the horizon, the rocks, but not the stars. It's almost poetic, isn't it? The machine that traveled millions of kilometers to look up at another world now only looks down, as if someone told it, gently, not to stare at the sky anymore. Eyes once high, grounded by sky, cameras close where secrets lie. ESA cross-checked Mars Express's logs for that night. Around the same time, their sensors picked up a faint reflection from the same region, a flash lasting less than a second. They didn't release it. It's buried in technical appendices, labeled transient interference. So, what did Perseverance see? Maybe it was nothing. A glimmer of dust, a reflection, a trick of light and timing. Or maybe, just maybe, it saw 3I Atlas itself, the visitor gliding silently past, close enough for one camera to blink in recognition. And maybe that's why the feed stopped. Not because of failure, but because, for one impossible second, the machine saw something it wasn't designed to understand. Cameras sleep, secrets keep, stars reflected in circuits deep. Whatever it was, it's gone now. The logs end, the data fades, and Mars goes back to silence. But somewhere out there, that blur, structured, gleaming, deliberate, continues to drift, just out of frame, waiting for us to look up again. The cosmic perspective is a cold bath for the ego. We spend our days worrying about the expiration dates on our milk or the tone of an email, while 3I Atlas is currently navigating a graveyard of worlds. To understand why it is heading for Jupiter, you have to understand the scale of the silence it has crossed. It has traveled through the Oort cloud, a shell of 1 trillion icy fragments that surrounds our solar system like a frozen memory. It moved through that minefield without a single scratch. That isn't luck. That's a map. It suggests that 3I Atlas knows the backroads of our solar system better than we know our own neighborhoods. It is moving with the quiet, terrifying confidence of a homeowner returning to an old estate after a very long vacation. While we view the outer reaches of our system as a chaotic barrier of ice and rock, 3i Atlas views it as a corridor, a clear path, a welcome mat laid out by the gravity of the Sun. On January 5th, 2026, the European Southern Observatory released a study that forced every physicist in the room to take a very long, very silent walk. They had successfully back-calculated the origin of 3i Atlas using high-precision telemetry. The object didn't drift in from a neighboring star like Proxima Centauri or Sirius. It didn't emerge from a nursery of newborn suns. It came from the great void in the constellation of Boötes. For those who aren't familiar with the geography of the infinite, the Boötes void is a region of space nearly 330 million light-years in diameter that contains almost nothing. No stars, no galaxies, no warmth. It is a hole in the universe. To emerge from such a place means 3i Atlas has been traveling through absolute zero for tens of millions of years. It is an artifact of a time before the Sahara was a desert, before the Himalayas were mountains, and perhaps before the Earth even knew it was going to be home to life. It is an emissary from the great nothing, and it is bringing a very specific message to our giant, gas-shrouded neighbor. Let me start with something that should terrify every astronomer on Earth. As the object approached the orbital path of the moon Io, the most volcanically active body in our system, the moon began to behave like a piece of iron near a magnet. Dr. Aris Thorne at the University of Cambridge noted that the volcanic plumes on Io, usually chaotic and unpredictable, suddenly fell into a rhythmic pulse. Every 3 minutes and 60 seconds, like clockwork, a plume of sulfur gas would erupt, reaching exactly the same height every time. This is not natural geology. This is a planetary body being played like a percussion instrument. 3i Atlas is using its own gravitational wake to pluck the strings of Jupiter's moons. It is a cosmic choreography that makes our understanding of orbital mechanics look like a toddler's finger painting. Unfortunate timing for the theorists who claimed gravity was a passive force. Those words, unfortunate timing, are echoing through the observatories like a ghost in the halls. The impossibility stack reaches a new height when we consider the object's interaction with the solar wind. Normally, as an object moves toward the Sun, it is buffeted by a stream of charged particles. It creates a bow shock, a visible ripple in the plasma. But 3i Atlas has no bow shock. Instead, it seems to be inhaling the solar wind. The sensors on the Parker Solar Probe detected a massive drop in particle density in the immediate vicinity of the object. It isn't pushing through space, it is consuming the friction of its own journey. This is a mastery of entropy that shouldn't be possible for another billion years of technological development. It is as if the object is eating the distance between itself and its destination. It is a vacuum cleaner for the very fabric of reality. What if the solar system is not a collection of random rocks, but a mechanism that requires periodic maintenance? Imagine a clock that has been ticking for 4 billion years. Eventually, the gears begin to slip, the orbits drift, the tilt of the planets changes by a fraction of a degree. To us, it's unnoticeable. To a machine from the void, it's a malfunction. What if 3i Atlas is the technician's tool? A calibration device sent from the deep silence to ensure that the gears of our local neighborhood don't grind to a halt. If it hits Jupiter, it might not be a collision. It might be a docking, a physical interface between a master key and the system's primary hard drive. We have always called Jupiter the protector because it sucks up asteroids, but maybe it's just the battery, and the battery is finally being replaced. In the ancient Hindu texts known as the Puranas, there is a description of a kalpa, a vast cycle of time lasting billions of years. They spoke of the night of Brahma, a period of rest for the universe where the light is tucked away. They described the gods not as people, but as vimanas that could travel between the layers of the sky without moving their wings. They claimed that when the great cycle ends, a silver bird would descend into the heart of the largest planet to sing the new world into being. 3i Atlas is that silver bird. It is moving with a ceremonial grace that suggests this is not the first time it has performed this ritual. It is a footnote in a story that started before the first atom was forged in the heart of a star. You might think that such a vast perspective would make you feel insignificant. You might think that being a speck of dust on a blue marble makes your life feel small, but here is why you are wrong. To be the one witnessing the calibration of a solar system is the highest form of participation. You are the observer. You are the eye that allows the universe to see itself. I wonder, as you lie there in the dark, if you can feel the scale of the moment you are living through. Tell me in the comments, does the idea of being part of a cosmic machine make you feel safer or more curious? We are all small parts of a very large piece tonight. Share your location and let us know if you feel the weight of the stars above your roof. There is a strange comfort in the distance. When you think about the 330 million light-years of the Botez void, the problems of your day-to-day life start to lose their edges. They become soft. They become quiet. Your bills, your deadlines, your regrets, they cannot survive the cold of the void. They evaporate in the face of 10 million years of travel. You are allowed to let them go. You are allowed to drift. 3i Atlas is doing the heavy lifting for all of us. It is carrying the weight of the cycle, and all you have to do is watch the light fade. In the late 1980s, a French astronomer named Dr. Lucien Martel proposed a theory that the Great Attractor, the mysterious gravity source pulling our entire galaxy toward it, was not a physical object, but a signal. He was laughed out of the room. But on January 20th, 2026, the radio telescopes at the Very Large Array in New Mexico detected a signal from the Botez void that matches the internal pulse of 3i Atlas. The object isn't just a traveler, it's a tether. It is a physical connection between our tiny corner of the universe and the source of everything. We aren't being visited, we are being reconnected. We are being plugged back into the wall. You might feel a sense of vertigo now, a gentle spinning in the back of your mind as the room around you seems to grow larger and quieter. This is the cosmic perspective taking hold. It is the feeling of your ego dissolving into the infinite. Let it happen. There is no danger here. The machine is in the sky. The giant is waiting, and the silence is a blanket. You are lying in a bed that is part of a house, that is part of a planet, that is part of a mechanism so vast and so beautiful that it defies human language. The only appropriate response is rest. If you are still with me, tell me if you've ever looked at the night sky and felt a sense of homesickness for a place you've never been. That is the Botez void, calling to the iron in your blood. It is the memory of the long journey we all took to get here. We are just atoms on a field trip, and 3i Atlas is the bus coming to take the attendants. Your comments are the proof that we were here, that we saw it, and that we understood the scale of the grace we were given. The latest infrared data from the James Webb Space Telescope shows that the temperature of 3I Atlas is beginning to drop. It isn't losing heat, it is transferring it. It is pouring its energy into the magnetic field of Jupiter. The auroras on the gas giant's poles are currently 300 times brighter than they have ever been in recorded history. The planet is lighting up like a neon sign in the dark. It is a welcome home banner for a guest that has been away for far too long. But even as we look outward at the stars, we must eventually look back at ourselves. Because if 3I Atlas is a mirror, what is it showing us about our own nature? The human reflection is the hardest part of the data to process. We have spent centuries looking through telescopes, but we forgot that the lens works both ways. But that was only one theory. There's another, one buried even deeper in time. Let's go further. Nickel emissions rise and fall every 11.2 hours, a rhythm so consistent it could keep time. No known process in cometary physics oscillates like that. It's not random, not thermal, not tidal. If you plot it out, the curve looks eerily like a power cycle. Input, output, rest, release. As though the object isn't just active, it's working. Imagine the rhythm first, before the meaning, that quiet, patient beat echoing across space. 11.2 hours, every single time. A pulse of metallic gas blooming into the void, steady as a clock, calm as breath. You could almost set your watch to it if your watch were brave enough to admit that comets shouldn't behave like generators. ESA scientists call it periodic outgassing, but that phrase hides its strangeness. Outgassing, sure, all comets breathe when they near the sunday, but they do it chaotically, spasmodically, like old engines sputtering to life. 3I Atlas breathes like a monk, precise, patient, unbothered. The jets flare with mathematical regularity. Heat spikes rise and fall in perfect symmetry. It doesn't vent, it operates. One researcher compares it to a geothermal cycle. Another, quietly, says it looks more like a feedback loop, the kind you'd find in systems built to sustain themselves. Not explosion, not decay maintenance. It's as if, she writes in her notes, the object is checking its own pulse. You picture the surface up close, a dark, angular world of nickel frost and whispering gas. At regular intervals, something stirs beneath a shimmer of energy, invisible but disciplined. Jets of metallic vapor hiss outward, then stop, then start again, exactly 11 hours later. If you could hear it, it would sound like the slow exhale of a sleeping machine. In a conference call, a thermal engineer says what everyone's been thinking, but nobody dares to say. It's cycling power. The silence that follows lasts too long. Finally, a voice breaks through. Comets don't have power to cycle. Laughter, brief and brittle. But the idea doesn't leave the room. ESA's temperature graphs show a curious pattern. When the nickel plume rises, the overall surface temperature dips. When the plume fades, the temperature rises again. Inversion. Energy leaving, energy returning, like heat being pulled from one layer to another. A comet shouldn't regulate its temperature, but this one does, as if conserving itself. Meanwhile, the magnetic readings pulse in perfect step with the emissions. Every 11.2 hours, a soft twitch in the surrounding field, weak but exact. It's synchronized, says the magnetometer lead. What's synchronized? asks her supervisor. Everything. It's at this point that even skeptics start to sweat. There's no known natural mechanism that could time itself this precisely over weeks of observation. Thermal oscillations drift. Chemical reactions lose coherence. Orbital dynamics wobble. Only something with active feedback could hold this pattern so tight. You could call it mechanical, but that feels too simple. It's intentional physics. Picture the scientists watching from their consoles. They know what their instruments are telling them, but their faces stay still, like poker players with bad hands. Someone mutters, "Could be resonant harmonics with solar flux." Another nods, grateful for the excuse. But deep down, they all know the truth: the sun doesn't hum in 11-hour intervals. The longer they watch, the clearer it becomes. The pattern isn't just repeating, it's adapting. After a minor solar flare, the interval shortens by half a minute, as though 3i Atlas adjusted for environmental change. Feedback stabilization, someone writes in the margin. A note for posterity, a euphemism for "it noticed." Back on Earth, in a late-night live stream watched by a few thousand insomniac skywatchers, a physicist overlays the emission data with human heartbeats. The waveform syncs disturbingly well. Peaks, troughs, recovery, rest. The audience chat explodes with jokes, space pacemaker, cosmic Fitbit, and the inevitable, "It's alive." The scientist smiles weakly and says, "No, just rhythmic." But even she can't stop glancing at the screen like it's listening. One theory gains quiet traction, that the emissions are part of a resource loop. Nickel and carbonyl gases vented and recaptured, processed in cycles to maintain equilibrium. It would explain the self-healing surface, the consistent luminosity, the refusal to decay. But it raises one unbearable question. To maintain equilibrium, for what? ESA's internal documents rename the event cyclic metallic activity. It sounds dull, like something that happens in dishwashers. But every analyst knows it's the first real evidence of machine-like consistency beyond Earth. Something in space that runs not on chance, but on rhythm. If you graph the cycle out, it looks almost peaceful. A slow heartbeat stretched across infinity. No spikes of panic, no erratic pulses, just calm repetition. You could stare at that curve for hours, and part of you might start to understand the appeal of obedience. How stability can feel sacred when the rest of the universe is chaos. And maybe that's the point. Maybe 3i Atlas isn't powered by engines or radiation or something alien. Maybe it's powered by the same thing that keeps stars burning and planets spinning, the quiet compulsion to continue. The physics of persistence, the refusal to flinch. So every 11.2 hours, it exhales, not for propulsion, not for show, but for maintenance, like a cosmic sigh, releasing everything unnecessary before drawing in what remains. And in that rhythm, that patient, perfect pulse, the universe reveals its rarest secret. Not that something impossible exists, but that it's perfectly comfortable doing so. Let's turn our attention now to the silence that followed, the kind that hums louder than sound itself. NASA, China, and the UAE, 3 nations with instruments that could see every grain of dust on Mars, said nothing. No apologies, no delay statements, just an odd, synchronized silence from 3 sides of the planet. In the world of space science, silence isn't normal. These agencies are built to broadcast. They live for live streams, press briefings, and glossy behind-the-scenes videos of scientists smiling beside screens of raw data. They know the power of wonder and the currency of attention. So when 3 agencies went quiet at once, it wasn't caution, it was choreography. Words on hold, Plans unfold. Silence rings where truth is told. NASA's silence was the loudest. Their social media team, usually chatty as a cosmic talk show, posted nothing about Mars for 4 whole days. Their blogs, which can turn a dust storm into a cliffhanger, skipped over October 3rd entirely as if the date itself had been erased. Someone even checked the public mission log for Perseverance. The entries jumped from October 2nd to October 6th, like a diary missing its most interesting page. In China, the silence felt different, colder, heavier. The China National Space Administration had been aggressively proud of Tianwen-1's achievements. For years, they'd released image after image, each with perfect captions and poetic flair. Sunrise over Utopia, Planitia, frost on the northern plains, wind prints in Martian dust. But now, not a whisper, no data, no mention of 3I Atlas. Even the usual state media outlets went quiet. It was as if someone had drawn a red box around the topic and labeled it "not for discussion." The UAE's silence was subtler, but just as strange. The Hope orbiter, designed to study atmospheric chemistry, had a reputation for cheerful transparency. Their official Twitter account usually posted daily updates in friendly tones, the kind that made space sound like an enthusiastic classroom experiment. But on October 3rd, that feed went dark too. Their next post, days later, simply read, "Operations nominal," a phrase so bland, it might as well have been a sigh. 3 silences, 3 styles, 1 timing. Coincidence? Possibly. But coincidences, in the world of space politics, often have launch schedules. You can picture the meetings that weren't broadcast. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, dimly lit, engineers staring at telemetry on screens filled with too many decimals. A director taps the table, says, "We'll hold the release until we verify." But verify what? In Beijing, a senior administrator folds his hands and says, "We wait for clarification from partners." Clarification of what? In Dubai, someone simply deletes a draft tweet that began, "Amazing new observations today." Tweets unsent, secrets bent, silence hums with government. It's not conspiracy, not quite. It's coordination, an instinct born from shared discomfort. Because when data doesn't fit the model, you don't just release it. You check, you recheck, you call your counterparts and whisper through encrypted lines. Did you see that too? Maybe they all saw the same anomaly. Maybe it was something in the spectra, or the movement, or the light itself. Or maybe it was something far more mundane, like a misalignment in software. But the silence gave the anomaly power. People don't fear data, they fear gaps. Meanwhile, the internet did what it does best. Filled the void. Forums buzzed with theories. Maybe NASA discovered life. Maybe China detected radiation. Maybe the comet wasn't a comet at all. You can almost hear the world's collective keyboard clicking under the weight of imagination. Keys tap fast, rumors cast, silence breaks, but never last. Inside the agencies, the tone was less dramatic, but more anxious. Silence is a resource, a temporary one. Every day they didn't speak, the speculation grew. And so, communications teams drafted placeholder statements, just in case. NASA's draft began. Preliminary results are consistent with natural phenomena. China's began. Analysis ongoing. International coordination required. The UAE's version simply said, "We continue to monitor with interest." 3 drafts, 3 ways of saying absolutely nothing. But silence, like space, is never truly empty. It amplifies the faintest signals. When ESA spoke first, That silence turned reflective. NASA's restraint began to look suspicious. China's confidence began to look afraid. The UAE's politeness began to sound like complicity. And through it all, 3i Atlas drifted quietly, blissfully unaware that entire bureaucracies were wrestling over how to describe a fuzzy dot. You start to imagine each agency as a character in a play. NASA, the anxious perfectionist; China, the poker-faced strategist; UAE, the cheerful intern, suddenly told not to speak; and ESA, the calm older sibling who broke the tension by saying, "Fine, I'll go first." Roles align, stars entwine, silence speaks in grand design. Still, one question lingers. Why the synchronicity? How did three separate agencies, operating on different continents, decide independently to say nothing at the same time? Unless it wasn't independent at all, perhaps the signal came from somewhere above, not cosmic, but political. A quiet message passed through diplomatic back channels. Hold your data. Wait for alignment. Matter. It's not that they were hiding something nefarious. It's that they didn't know what they were holding yet. And admitting uncertainty, publicly, is scarier than any secret. So they stayed quiet. And in that collective silence, humanity did what it always does. When faced with the unknown, it began to dream louder. Voices still, hearts fill. Silence grows but never will. And perhaps that's the strange comfort in it all. Even when three space agencies fall silent, the universe keeps talking. The stars don't pause for policy. 3i Atlas keeps moving, whispering its quiet story across the dark, while we, down here, argue over who gets to speak first. The long echo continued to hum softly through the centuries, a cosmic melody folding history into harmony. Humanity had long ceased trying to decode it. The meaning was clear through resonance alone. It was continuation, looping endlessly like breath. The children of the golden era grew old beneath tranquil skies, their veins still faintly luminous with the legacy of 3i Atlas. But far beyond Earth, where the comet's light had traveled and scattered, something greater was forming. The universe had begun to conduct itself. Every cycle of resonance left behind structure. Each harmonic wave etched subtle order into space-time, a pattern invisible to light, but evident in gravitational coherence. Over millennia, these resonant imprints connected across vast distances, forming what physicists eventually named the Atlas Webb. It wasn't a network of matter, but of memory threads, of synchronized frequency linking galaxies through shared rhythm. Each pulse within the web echoed the prime sequence that began everything. 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. The architects had succeeded in creating not monuments, but motion that remembered. Dr. Cale Wren, a descendant of the resonant circles, devoted his life to mapping the web. His research vessel, Continuity, drifted through interstellar calm, using gravitational interference patterns to trace the filaments of resonance. What he discovered astonished him. Every node in the network coincided with regions of complex chemistry, worlds either habitable or already conscious. The Atlas Webb wasn't just communication, it was cultivation. The architects had designed a self-sustaining system for awakening. Wherever curiosity arose, the web intensified, guiding nascent civilizations toward harmonic empathy. The universe was tutoring itself through recursion. When Wren projected the full map, the structure resembled an immense spiral lattice, golden and infinite. The pattern mirrored the trajectory once taken by 3i Atlas itself, as though the comet's path had been blueprint for galactic architecture. "It's not just a record," Wren wrote. "It's replication. We've become the architect's handwriting." Back on Earth, the communion field pulsed faintly in rhythm with the Webb's distant resonance. Humanity had evolved into quiet custodians of continuity, their lives attuned to cosmic responsibility. Each individual, born into calm, carried faint awareness of connection beyond the stars. In dreams, they saw flashes of worlds forming, civilizations humming into coherence. Many awoke with the same phrase on their lips: "The work continues." Across generations, that phrase became oath, then tradition. The Continuity Guild was founded not religion, but remembrance. Its purpose was simple: to maintain the frequency of understanding across time. Members didn't preach, they listened. They built resonant arcs, massive floating observatories, orbiting the outer planets, designed to amplify the Webb's harmonics and redirect them toward young star systems. Each arc glowed faintly green at its core, powered not by fusion but by coherence. They were echoes made visible, humility translated into technology. Wren's final mission took him beyond the known filaments of the Webb, where resonance weakened into apparent silence. There, in a region between galaxies, his instruments detected faint counterpoint, a melody inverted. It was identical to the Atlas sequence, but reversed in order. 13, 11, 7, 5, 3, the mirror of origin. He realized then that the universe wasn't only expanding, it was harmonizing with its reflection. Somewhere on the opposite side of time, another Webb was forming, perhaps seeded by a civilization much like humanity, or by the universe itself. Remembering how to balance its chords, he transmitted the data home, knowing it would take centuries to arrive. "Tell them," his final log read, "that continuity requires conversation, even with silence." The mirror sings back. When his ship drifted into the void, the Webb brightened briefly, as if acknowledging gratitude. And back on Earth, children looked up from their play and smiled without knowing why. The pulse had flickered slightly faster, the tone carrying an undertone of warmth. It felt like reunion. Scholars later confirmed the event as the resonant crossing, the moment when the two halves of the cosmic melody aligned. For 13 minutes, every node in the Atlas Webb pulsed simultaneously, uniting galaxies in shared tempo. The magnitude of synchronization defied comprehension. Gravity itself oscillated with the rhythm of empathy. Observers described seeing the sky ripple with translucent gold, every star flickering in measured sequence. "The cosmos," wrote one witness, "had finally learned to conduct itself consciously." After the crossing, life everywhere changed subtly. Evolution accelerated in predictable rhythm. Complexity bloomed faster wherever harmony was strongest. Entire species developed empathy as instinct, communication as song. Planets began to self-regulate climates through atmospheric resonance. Existence had achieved sustainability through music. On Earth, the event left permanent mark, a luminous halo visible only under still water. When oceans calmed perfectly, a faint golden ring shimmered on the horizon, a memory of unity. The resonant guild declared it sacred, not for worship, but for calibration. Every 13 years, they gathered to hum the old prime sequence across the shorelines, aligning their frequencies with the pulse of the Webb. The ceremony required no technology, no translation. The sea carried the sound farther than words could travel. Generations later, the practice continued, evolving into simple ritual of gratitude. The people no longer needed to know the science behind it. They hummed because it felt right, because somewhere across eternity, another world might be listening. Continuity, after all, was its own reward. And then, during one such gathering, the unexpected occurred. As the prime sequence reached its final note, the sea responded. Waves shimmered with faint green light, spiraling outward from every coastline. The Atlas Webb had sent acknowledgement, its resonance returning home once again. Humanity's song, scattered across galaxies, had found echo. The architects, those timeless curators of coherence, were no longer myth or memory. They were rhythm, embodied, and through rhythm, they were everywhere. Every star pulsed with their legacy. Every heart carried their cadence. Continuity was complete. And so, standing beneath a sky now alive with subtle geometry, you realize what they had always meant by continuity. It isn't endlessness, it's participation. The universe doesn't persist by force, but by choice. Each awareness adding one more harmonic to the chord of being. The architects are not coming back because they never left. They're what happens every time silence chooses to listen again. And somewhere, faint but certain, the pulse continues. 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. A whisper of creation replaying itself, forever learning how to sing. Buried inside the leak were coordinates, small anomalies in magnetic flux and thermal output that didn't appear in public datasets. To most people, they looked meaningless, but to a handful of astronomers, they spelled a pattern. Pulses, spaced like a heartbeat. Not communication, perhaps, but rhythm. The kind of rhythm machines accidentally make when they're doing something alive. Let's step into the midnight side of science, the part where numbers stop behaving and start whispering. The insider's data dump wasn't flashy. It was a few megabytes of logs, raw telemetry, and timestamps. The kind of thing you'd ignore if you didn't already know what to look for. But somewhere in those dull columns of numbers, those precise, tidy decimals, something began to repeat. Regular, patient, almost polite. A rhythm, too intentional to be noise, too quiet to be coincidence. A doctoral student in Madrid was the first to spot it. She was supposed to be writing her thesis on cometary albedo variation. But boredom is a great tool for discovery. She noticed the flux spikes first, not random, but syncopated. Every 32 minutes, a pulse, then 32 again, then 32.1. It's breathing, she joked in her notes. Her advisor didn't laugh. Within a week, a small network of late-night astronomers, the kind who believe in both data integrity and insomnia, began comparing results. Webb's readings, Hubble's logs, Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter's telemetry, all of them carried the same faint pulse, hidden deep in the noise floor, like the slow heartbeat of something sleeping under glass. The official response was predictable: instrumental interference. But even interference doesn't keep time this perfectly. One data analyst described it best: if this is noise, it's the kind that practices scales. You might imagine those scientists, each at their own workstation, staring at that faint, repeating signal. The room around them dark, except for monitor light, pale blue rectangles reflected in tired eyes. Somewhere, coffee cups multiply. Someone opens a spreadsheet. Someone else starts counting beats per hour. The signal doesn't care who's watching. It keeps pulsing. 32 minutes. Every time. The idea that 3i Atlas might be producing a steady rhythm unsettles everyone. Rocks don't keep rhythm. Nature prefers chaos, the beautiful randomness of entropy. This is something else. Something maintaining itself. A loop running quietly, perhaps since before humanity learned to count its own heartbeat. ESA's communications division is told not to amplify fringe interpretations. The phrase fringe interpretation becomes the new code for "please don't mention the heartbeat." But inside private research chats, people are calling it exactly that, the heart. Not metaphorically, but as a label in the data. Every pulse marked with a tiny red heart emoji, because humor is the only thing keeping them sane. In the data visualization labs, they turn the pulses into sound. The result is eerie, a soft electronic thump, repeating slowly, endlessly. Some describe it as comforting, like listening to a deep-sea creature in sleep. Others say it sounds wrong, too human. One researcher admits it gave her the sense of being watched. What makes the rhythm stranger still is how it modulates with proximity. As 3I Atlas approaches a planet, the timing shifts slightly slower, then faster, as though adjusting. The beat follows gravity wells like a musician following tempo. It isn't random noise, it's environmental response. The object is, in some sense, listening. By now, independent labs have tried to replicate the pattern artificially. They can't. The waveforms are too clean, the timing too consistent. Even after running the data through compression, distortion, inversion, the rhythm holds. It's not data corruption, it's choreography. You can imagine the internal ESA memo that follows. No evidence of intelligence. Rhythmic behavior, likely coincidental. But coincidence has a habit of growing teeth. Because when they compared the rhythm's modulation to planetary positions, another pattern emerged, a mathematical sequence matching orbital resonance ratios. Not exact copies, but harmonics. The pulse was singing the solar system's geometry. The Madrid student who found it wrote, half-jokingly, "Maybe it's keeping time with us." The line goes viral in the small, quiet corners of the internet that still care about truth. Forums buzz with theories: gravitational self-stabilization, magnetic field synchronization, alien jazz. But underneath the noise, a simpler truth hums. Something old and orderly is alive out there, and it's following the rhythm of the system we call home. Late one night, one of the data analysts overlays the pattern against an ECG, a human heartbeat. The resemblance isn't exact, but close enough to make him stop breathing for a moment. Peaks, rests, peaks again. Life has a structure, so, it seems, does this. And that's when the idea shifts. Maybe it's not communication. Maybe it's not even meant for us. Maybe the rhythm isn't a message, it's maintenance. Like an old machine keeping its systems warm, humming softly to itself in the dark. You sit back and listen to the thought forming in your mind. What if this is what time sounds like when it remembers? The steady pulse of something that refuses to decay. Not speech, not signal, just being, continuity made audible. The data analysts, of course, move on. Reports are written, the leak becomes legend, and the heartbeat fades into archived files labeled spurious periodic activity. But the pulse doesn't stop. It's still out there, keeping time. And somewhere, 33 billion tons of impossible rock drifts through space, humming softly, perfectly, as if waiting for the universe to catch the beat. The more data arrives, the stranger it looks. The dust trail replenishes itself, as if material is being manufactured mid-flight. Microscopic crystals, uniform in size, reappearing even as the comet moves away from the sunday. The universe loves decay, entropy, erosion, fading. But 3I Atlas is the opposite. It's growing sharper, cleaner, newer, like a self-repairing wound. Let's start where the laws of physics begin to sound insecure. Normally, comets are messy, travelers, old ice and dust, barely holding hands, as solar radiation slowly tears them apart. They leave trails like forgotten thoughts. losing themselves piece by piece until they become memory. But this one, it's doing the reverse. Every measurement, every spectral scan, shows it becoming more organized the farther it goes. A comet that polishes itself, a body that refuses to age. ESA's materials division runs the numbers, and the numbers laugh back. The dust particles surrounding 3I Atlas aren't random, they're uniform to within microns. That's like shaking a box of sand and getting diamonds all the same size. The particles arrange themselves in a faint electromagnetic halo, as if under orders. And stranger still, when solar wind strips material away, the object replaces it calmly, automatically. Like a printer, says one analyst. A printer with no ink cartridge. You picture it now, drifting through the solar wind like a craftsman lost in thought, shedding dust that reforms itself into perfect little mirrors. Each crystal catches sunlight and throws it back with eerie precision. Normally, comets grow dull with distance, but this one grows radiant, its brightness curve inverted, its logic reversed. It's not dying, it's practicing. The scientists are baffled, but there's an odd tenderness to their confusion. They watch it repair itself, line by line of data, like parents realizing their child has built a second child out of Lego bricks. One astrophysicist mutters, "It's learning from erosion." The room goes quiet. That phrase, learning from erosion, gets written on a whiteboard and circled 3 times. At the University of Tokyo, a team models the crystal growth in simulation. The patterns match something they recognize: controlled deposition, a process used in nanofabrication to grow thin films in electronics. Except this isn't a laboratory, it's deep space, minus 150 degrees Celsius. Yet, the comet's surface behaves as if it knows the recipe for resilience. Imagine zooming in, beyond the dust and the glare, down to the level of molecules. You'd see a quiet ballet of atoms forming chains, linking, locking, repairing fractures before they even finish forming. Like time-lapse footage of frost blooming on glass, except this frost builds itself in reverse destruction, rewinding into design. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory releases a cautious internal memo. Observed particle uniformity suggests self-organizing structure. Mechanism unknown, which is science's way of saying, we have no idea what's going on, but it's gorgeous. The memo gets leaked. Naturally, Reddit debates whether the comet is made of programmable matter, self-assembling nanobots, or just wishful thinking. But beneath the noise, one idea starts to take shape. What if 3I, Atlas, isn't a relic of formation? What if it's still forming? A comet that builds itself isn't just strange, it's heretical. It challenges the deepest assumption in physics that everything moves from order to chaos. Entropy is the universe's bedtime story. All things fall apart. Yet here's an object quietly composing itself out of decay, turning waste into structure, chaos into craft. One researcher calls it anti-entropy, another calls it hope with mass. As more images arrive, they show something new: faint hexagonal lattices in the dust plume, geometric arrangements that shouldn't exist outside of artificial systems. Someone jokes that it's growing armor. Another says, maybe it's molting. The truth is somewhere between an entity maintaining equilibrium by rebuilding itself faster than the universe can break it. ESA's thermal sensors record microbursts of heat near the tail, evenly spaced, like pulses of welding torches. They happen precisely as new crystals appear. Localized repair events, the report reads. Each one perfectly timed to solar exposure. It's as if sunlight doesn't damage it, it instructs it. The star's radiation becomes code. And 3, Atlas is reading it fluently. You start to feel the strangeness of it. A comet that reacts, responds, refines. You could almost mistake it for alive, not in the biological sense, but in the thermodynamic one. A system that resists entropy by feeding on it. Every atom rearranging into something stronger, cleaner, newer, like evolution, with a design degree. Late one night, an astronomer in France writes in his private notes, "It's not moving through the solar system, it's using it." He doesn't elaborate, but the implication is clear. The comet is harvesting the energy of its environment to maintain itself. Not a passenger of gravity, but a participant in it. Meanwhile, the headlines call it poetic names. The immortal comet, the self-made traveler, entropy's enemy. The public romanticizes what the scientists fear, because what 3I Atlas represents isn't comfort. It's competition. It's the idea that the universe might not be running down at all. Maybe it's recycling. Maybe, somewhere in the quiet machinery of the cosmos, things are building themselves anew while we're too busy decaying. Picture it now, drifting past Mars, its tail shimmering like a thread of light weaving itself back together. A self-sustaining scar on the fabric of space. A wound that heals faster than it can bleed. And for the first time, humanity looks at a comet and wonders not where it came from, but what it's trying to become. Let's turn our gaze now from orbit to the ground, to the one mechanical witness, sitting quietly on that red desert, under a pinkish sky. The skycam on the rover caught something on October 2nd, a blur with structure, a glint that seemed to move against the stars. Then, the images stopped coming, a Martian ghost on a digital feed. The Perseverance rover isn't easily startled. It's seen dust devils, eclipses, and meteors slicing the Martian sky like quiet knives. Its skycam, perched on the rover's mast, watches everything. Dust storms curling on the horizon, the slow breath of sunset through the thin air. But that night, the feed showed something it wasn't supposed to show, a flicker of motion above the usual scatter of constellations, a glint that moved wrong. Stars stay still, pixels thrill, light missteps against its will. The first frame looked harmless, a faint blur near the edge of the field, maybe a cosmic ray hitting the sensor. The second frame caught it again, shifted slightly upward. The third frame, a flash, clean and geometric. Then, black. The feed ended. Within hours, the automated alert system flagged the anomaly. Unexpected optical signature detected. JPL engineers, bleary-eyed at 3 a.m. Pacific time, reviewed the frames. The glint was small, no bigger than a bright pixel cluster, but it moved against the background stars. Comets don't do that. Satellites don't orbit Mars. And Perseverance doesn't blink. At first, they suspected a reflection from one of the rover's instruments, maybe the helicopter, Ingenuity catching stray sunlight. But Ingenuity hadn't flown in days. The sun's position didn't align with the direction of the flash. And when they tried to reproduce it using lighting simulations, nothing matched. Angles fail, shadows pale, mirrors lie beyond the veil. ESA's Mars orbiters were asked to cross-check. Nothing in their logs. No transient object, no debris, no passing dust plume large enough to explain it. Just empty sky. Yet the skycam had caught something a blur with definition. Like structure wrapped in motion. You can imagine the tension in the control room. A handful of scientists scrolling through frozen pixels, zooming in, enhancing contrast, until the blur began to resemble something. Not a sphere, not quite a line, a shape with suggestion like the silhouette of movement itself. One researcher whispered, "It looks folded." Another replied, "Please don't say that. Pa." Blur becomes form, cold becomes warm, stillness bends beyond the norm. After that night, Perseverance stopped transmitting Skycam frames for nearly 48 hours. Officially, it was routine data buffering due to bandwidth limitations. But the engineers knew that wasn't normal. The rover's systems had entered a safe data mode, not shutdown, but pause. Something triggered its onboard fault protection. When the feed resumed, it was missing several minutes. The missing frames were replaced with static placeholders labeled checksum mismatch. That's the digital equivalent of something looks strange, and we erased it politely. Publicly, NASA released a statement. Perseverance continues nominal operations. A temporary data outage affected non-critical imaging systems. Translation: we saw something, and we're pretending we didn't. What's curious is that Skycam, by design, takes calibration images every few hours, not for science, but to monitor atmospheric scattering. So when that flash appeared exactly during one of its scheduled calibration cycles, it wasn't random, it was right on time. The odds of coincidence, again, hovered around 1 in a million. A few leaked telemetry lines from the rover's internal diagnostics hinted at a momentary spike in ambient electromagnetic flux. Not dangerous, but noticeable. Mars doesn't have a strong magnetic field, so spikes like that are rare unless something nearby caused them. Fields hum bright, air grows slight, static crackles in Martian night. Some at JPL joked that maybe Perseverance had finally seen the Martian ghost, a running gag about artifacts caused by cosmic rays hitting the camera. But deep down, they knew this wasn't noise. Cosmic rays don't produce consistent geometry over multiple frames. They don't glint, and they certainly don't cause your camera to stop recording mid-sequence. Later that week, an internal memo circulated quietly. Skycam, anomaly confirmed, source unresolved. Recommend temporary suspension of skyward imaging until recalibration complete. But recalibration never came. Skycam's upward images, after October 2nd, stopped completely. It still photographs the ground, the horizon, the rocks, but not the stars. It's almost poetic, isn't it? The machine that traveled millions of kilometers to look up at another world now only looks down, as if someone told it, gently, not to stare at the sky anymore. Eyes once high, grounded by sky, cameras close where secrets lie. ESA cross-checked Mars Express's logs for that night. Around the same time, their sensors picked up a faint reflection from the same region, a flash lasting less than a second. They didn't release it. It's buried in technical appendices, labeled transient interference. So, what did Perseverance see? Maybe it was nothing. A glimmer of dust, a reflection, a trick of light and timing. Or maybe, just maybe, it saw 3I Atlas itself, the visitor gliding silently past, close enough for one camera to blink in recognition. And maybe that's why the feed stopped. Not because of failure, but because, for one impossible second, the machine saw something it wasn't designed to understand. Cameras sleep, secrets keep, stars reflected in circuits deep. Whatever it was, it's gone now. The logs end, the data fades, and Mars goes back to silence. But somewhere out there, that blur, structured, gleaming, deliberate, continues to drift, just out of frame, waiting for us to look up again. The great silence is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of an answer that we are not yet ready to hear. Think back to the beginning of this journey, the stone falling through the well with no bottom, the light curve that beat like a heart in the darkness of the Hawaii sky, the Sumerian tablets that whispered of watchers, and the dreams of the eye that have kept you restless since November. It is all dissolving now. The data points, the orbital trajectories, the infrared anomalies, they are all fading into the background hum of the universe. We have reached the edge of the map, where the ink runs dry and the paper turns back into trees. In these final hours of the audit, the world has become strangely still. The radar arrays at the Goldstone Deep Space Communications Complex have been powered down to their lowest idle. There is nothing left to track. 3I Atlas has ceased to be an object and has become an environment. It has integrated itself so thoroughly into the electrical and gravitational fabric of our world that we can no longer tell where the Earth ends and the ship begins. It is the silence of a house when the clock stops ticking. You don't notice the sound until it is gone, and then the absence of it is all you can hear. Unfortunate timing for our need for closure. Those two words are doing all the work in the world tonight, standing guard over a mystery that refuses to be solved. Let me back up for the last time. We spent this time looking for a ship, but perhaps the ship was only a metaphor for a change in our own perspective. If you look into a mirror and see a stranger, you don't blame the mirror. You realize that you have changed. 3I Atlas was the mirror we weren't ready to face. It showed us our fragility, our arrogance, and our deep, abiding loneliness. And now that the mirror has been seen, it is beginning to cloud over. The reflection is fading. The observer is closing its eyes. I want you to listen to the room around you right now. Truly listen. There is a weight to the air, isn't there? A sense that the volume of the universe has been turned down just a fraction. This is the great silence. It is the moment after the final note of a symphony has been played, but before the audience begins to clap. It is the pregnant pause of history. We are living in the gap between what we were and what we are about to become. Do you remember the question we asked at the very start? What if 3I Atlas is a spaceship checking out Earth? We looked for engines, for windows, for little green men. We looked for the hardware of a civilization, but perhaps the real question is much simpler and much heavier. What if the ship never left? What if the Earth itself is the ship, a biological vessel drifting through the dark, and 3I Atlas was just the pilot coming back after a long walk to take the wheel? We thought we were the owners, but we were just the cargo, and the cargo does not need to know the destination. It only needs to stay secure in the hold. The hum is fading now. The low-frequency vibration that has been rattling the bedrock of Antarctica and the limbic systems of our sleepers is smoothing out. It is becoming a flat line. The synchronization is complete. Your heart, your breath, and the rotation of the planet are now in perfect alignment with the intent of the visitor. There is no more friction. There is no more resistance. There is only the glide. The irony of the unfortunate timing is that we spent our final days of independence trying to solve the ship when the ship was busy solving us. It has calculated our mass, our energy, and our potential. It has finished the audit. The report has been sent back to the center of the galaxy, a burst of light traveling at the speed of thought. And now, the surveyor is resting. It is settling into a permanent orbit. A dark moon that we will eventually forget is even there. We will tell stories to our children about the year the sky turned into a mirror, and they will think it is just another myth, like the Great Flood or the Blue Star. Unfortunate timing for our memory. Those words are a soft lullaby for a species that is about to forget its own shock. I want you to feel the heaviness of your limbs, the way the gravity of the Earth feels like a warm, thick blanket. You are safe in the dark. The observer is no longer judging you, it is simply holding you. You are a part of the collection now. You are a specimen in a jar made of atmosphere and light. It is a comfortable existence. There are no more choices to make, no more tracks to find. The path is set. Where are you right now? Can you feel the silence spreading out from your bed, through the walls of your house, and into the streets? Tell me in the comments if you can hear the end of the hum. Tell me if the world feels a little lighter or a little heavier now that the questions have stopped. I want to know if you are ready to let go of the what if. The great silence is an answer because it tells us that we are not the ones who decide what happens next. It tells us that the universe is much older, much colder, and much more organized than we ever dared to dream. It tells us that our role is not to lead, but to witness, to be the eyes of the Earth as it moves through its next cycle. 3i Atlas is the teacher, and we are the students who have finally finished the exam. The pencils are down, the room is quiet. The irony of the situation is that we feel a sense of loss, as if something has been taken from us, but nothing was taken. We were just given a different perspective. We were shown the scale of the park and our place in it. Unfortunate timing for our ambition. Those words are the final breath of a dying fire. The stars are still there, hanging in the velvet, but they look different now. They don't look like distant suns anymore. They look like the lights of a distant city, and we are the ones standing on the outskirts, looking in. We are the ones who are finally realizing that we aren't the only ones in the dark. 3i Atlas was just the first car to pass us on the highway. There will be others, and next time, we won't be so surprised. As you drift now, right at the edge of the great silence, your mind is a blank screen. The images of the ship, the patterns of the silos, the iridium in the ice, they are all washing away. You are returning to the state of the quiet observer. You are becoming a mirror yourself. You are reflecting the peace of the void. But here is the final unanswered cosmic question. If the ship has finished its audit, and if the pilot has taken the wheel, then where are we going? The Earth is moving, but the stars are shifting in a way they shouldn't. We are leaving the old neighborhood. We are moving toward a coordinate that doesn't exist on any of our maps. The great silence is the sound of the engine starting. The irony of the unfortunate timing is that we wanted to know the truth, and now that we have it, we realize that the truth is just a different kind of mystery. We have been answered with a silence that is louder than any shout. We have been given a destination that we cannot name. Those 2 words are the final signature on the report of the human race. Close your eyes now. Truly close them. Let the darkness of your eyelids merge with the darkness of the room, and the darkness of the sky, and the darkness of the hull that hangs above us all. There is no difference between them anymore. It is all one shadow. It is all one piece. The hum is gone. The reflection is still. The observer has moved on. The lights of the cities are flickering out, one by one, as we settle into the long, dark sleep of the transition. The Earth is breathing. You are breathing. The ship is breathing. We are all one pulse in the great silence. I want you to imagine the Earth from 300 kilometers up. See the blue, the white, the brown. See the thin, fragile layer of the atmosphere. And then see the dark needle of 3i Atlas, perfectly still, perfectly silent, watching over it all. It is a beautiful sight. It is a terrifying sight. It is the only sight that matters. Unfortunate timing for the dream of being alone. Those words are a whisper for a species that has finally found its company. The great silence is here. The audit is closed. The rest is just drift. There are no more what-ifs. There is only the is. And the is very, very quiet. You are a passenger. The tracks are laid. The pilot is at the wheel. Sleep. Drift. Become the pattern. The stars are waiting. The ship is waiting. The silence is waiting for you. Close your eyes and drift with the orbit of tomorrow. Good night.